Welcome back, Raider Nation. How we doing this evening? This is your co-host, along with my main man, Chris Flores, up above, and everybody knows him as Papa Rundown.
What up? What up?
Oh, now it's Grandpa Rundown now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to you two gentlemen. It's a pleasure. I love doing these shows with you guys. These are a blast. I'm usually on hanging with the young kids, except for Chris and I sometimes. But now I got.
What do you mean, sweet Chris?
3 OGs. This is like the 3 OG show here. I like this. I like
that too.
So everybody in the chat, as long as they're aware of what's going on today we're going to go over Raider coaching history. As usual on this show, we don't talk about, or we try not to talk about the current status with the Raiders. We're more of the history of the team. Last week we covered Al Davis, and we had a special guest with Miss Peggy on last week. So this week it's just the three of us, and we're going to get into the coaches through the years of the Raiders, the good and the bad and the super ugly. So before we get rolling, let's just hit the chat up real quick. Just say hi to everybody and check in with everyone. Navman's in the house. What's up, Navman? Salute the Raider Ryan. What's going on, brother? Where's the flag? How you doing tonight, man? There's my guy, Sacktown Raider Mike. Salute, brother. Jason Downs in the house. What's up, Jason? And let's see. Scroll further down. There's this guy, Chris Ferreira. Don't know who he is. And we've got Jeffrey in the house. What's going on?
That's my ex-co-worker. What's up, Jeffrey? How you doing, bro?
So
what's up? Salute everybody in the chat, man. Appreciate everybody for stopping in.
Yes, sir.
So this is going to be a good show. I figure we're going to probably go about hour and a half. And again, we're just talking coaches, the history of the team. So the team was founded in 1960. In total, we've had 26 head coaches. That includes interim coaches. So, I mean, there was some good years, some great years, and some real super shitty years.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And more recently, some super shitty years than in the past. Out of all the coaches between you two, which one do you guys think is who's the biggest standout as far as overall coach? Like, who would you pin as our number one all-time greatest coach for this team?
Well, you want to go first, Chris, or I'll take it out. Go ahead.
You talking about the one I liked the most when he was a coach, or the one I liked the most, Madden? And it's like Madden 1, Madden 8, and Flores B. Like those two set me on, like, because when I became a Raider fan, who was the head coach? Matt. So those are my two. Like, yeah.
Right. I think to echo off Chris, I really do think that when you think of the Raiders, you think of Madden. Madden he's a trendsetter. Even though Flores has the most Super Bowls, he pretty much, in essence, did it with with Madden's, with Madden's template. You know what I mean? But I echo you, Chris. I would say that John Madden 1A and Tom Flores 1B. I think it gets interesting when we start talking about who the third coach was. Who's the third best coach? I think everyone can kind of, especially as older cats, we can all kind of universally agree that, it would be Madden and Tom Flores. You know what I mean? But the peculiar thing is, who would be that third guy? Who would really be that third guy when we talk about coaches in Raiders coaching lore?
Yeah, I mean, after those two, it's kind of a big drop off, in my opinion. Some would say Al Davis. I mean, he did have a winning record while he was a head coach, but I think he was the catalyst to be that renegade team, basically, to what we all know and love, and what we grew to love as youths. When we started becoming fans. I agree with you both on the other two. I mean, without a doubt, it's your personal preference between the two. It's just, you think of NFL, you think of Raiders old school, you think of Madden right away. I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and then Flores is always the next one. That third one's a tough one, if you ask me. In my opinion, I think it's a toss up between two. I think it's a toss up between Art Shell's first stint, and Gruden's first stint.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, it's another one of those personal preference. Which one you liked the best out of those two?
I would say this.
Oh, go ahead.
Me too. Yeah, my bad. I would say Art Shell because I was going to the games in LA at that time.
Me too.
You know, so I was actually, you know, so you know what that's like, Chris. You know what that felt like. You know, the Jay Strader, Bo Jackson teams, the Willie Goat, and you know what I mean, the Howie Loans and the Greg Townsends and all those guys. You know, those are some great teams.
And plus, on top of that, I'm sorry, man, because this is the thing. He was the first black head coach, and for us being who we are, that made me feel proud inside. You know,
yeah.
Going to the game and seeing actually a black head coach out there coaching the team, and they were winning some games. They didn't go all the way, but they're winning games. I felt proud, like, yeah, I'm ready. Like, we got to, that's one.
And you know what? Not only that, you know, that fact doesn't get lost on us. He was the first black head coach, but to also be successful, you know, like to also kind of come in and rally in the team and winning. You know what I mean? I think that, you know, that kind of electrified LA, you know, for those couple of years. You know, it was some exciting times in the LA Coliseum when Art Shell was coaching back then.
Yeah.
Great games. You know, I remember some great games, especially against division opponents. You know, like guys like John Elway, we watched them play against, and Christian Okoye and all them guys. And you know what I mean? We had some great games. Yeah, we had some great games in that little time span when Art Shell was coaching back then.
We had some games that were like, that was football. You know, you saw them guys that kind of beat each other up. You know, wasn't no sweet touch pass. No, it was like, catch a ball, I'm gonna hit you, and they hit each other.
Yeah,
like this. It made the whole Coliseum just like, get a hit. Man, it was fun.
It was.
I definitely get where you two are coming from with the whole cultural image thing. You know, I'm sure it made you guys proud to, you know, see him in that position, being the first, you know, coach of color like that. You know, whereas I'm sure it was the same feeling for anybody that was of Hispanic origins, with Flores being the first head coach. Not only that, but also, you know, the first Latino quarterback in the NFL. You know, which harks back to just, I know we discussed Al Davis last week, but everything ties to Al Davis regardless. You know, it's Al Davis's foresight to see, you know, the integration with the NFL, with the different races and everything, and ethnicities. You know, he was the forefront of all that. You know, he hired the first Latino, or he drafted the first Latino quarterback, hired the first Latino head coach, hired the first big fat overweight coach in Madden. I'm only saying that because I'm a big dude. You know, hired the first African American head coach in Art Shell. And, you know, good thing for him too is they were all successful. You know, what type of impact would it have been if any one of them had failed? You know, you got to look at it that way too. Like you would have had the naysayers out there saying, well, see, we told you shouldn't have hired a Latino head coach. Look what happens. And the same thing with Art Shell. If he would have failed, you know, the naysayers would have been out in full force with that, which would change a whole different narrative now too. But we're fortunate that we were successful, you know, with those different guys as head coaches.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And the other thing you see is between those three head coaches, we're just going to stick with those three for this moment, between Madden, Flores, and Art Shell, you saw the game evolve in those three different coaching regimes. You know, with Madden, it was that smash mouth, dirty. You got away with what you could get away with in the NFL in that era. And when Flores took over, the game started to become more of a finesse style game. You know, the passing was a bigger thing. You know, the style, like Marcus Allen was a huge factor in that, just because of his ability, the way he ran the ball. You know, Eric Dickerson was the same way too. When they came out, they had that more of a finesse. They weren't like a punch you in the mouth type running style. That was Bo Jackson.
You know what, Jeff? That was, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. And Chris, I'm sure you can attest to this, being out here at that time as well. Remember 84, 85, 86, it was Marcus Allen and Eric Dickerson. Yeah. Those were like the two, you know what I mean? Like it was funny because they were so great and they were just right across town from each other. I remember one time I was a teenager, probably about 13, 14, pretty much right after that first Raider game I went to. And they had these huge articles in the paper, one about Eric Dickerson, one about Marcus Allen. I remember cutting out the pictures of both of those guys and like putting them up side by side on my wall. You know what I mean? That was just a quick little caveat, but that was a fun time. And you're right. Football did evolve. It was starting to go into more of the finesse game, more of a speed-based game, more of a skilled, like I always say, people don't really mention Marcus like they should when it comes to one of the most skilled running backs of all time. I don't think he gets his due, but Tom Flores definitely was an innovator when it came to using Marcus Allen in certain ways. Remember, he was the guy that started throwing throwing touchdown passes, and he was the receiver and all. He played receiver a little bit. I mean, Marcus was a do-it-all guy, and you got to, and you got to give Tom Flores a lot of credit. But Tom Flores deserves a lot of credit for that.
A lot of things they don't mention about Marcus Allen. Tom Flores used him as also a what they call a decoy. Because he'll see Marcus Allen in motion as a receiver. So they send linebacker out, then he'll come back in and reverse the thing and block. He'll block. Marcus Allen was a great blocking running back, and people don't remember that. He used to be playing fullback in college.
Sure was.
Thought, this is a weapon, a Swiss Army knife. I can use all over the field. A running back throwing touchdown passes, like you said. Playing a blocking back. Sometimes he lined up at the tight end position one time or another. Like, why is he on this? And then he goes up for a pass. Mm-hmm. That was Tom Flores' innovation.
Yeah, Tom Flores. He brought some modern innovation. To the Raiders because, like you said, Jeff, to your point, the '70s was more of a smash mouth. Approach that we had. I mean, I remember going back. Well, not too long ago, I went back and watched a few games. For a few '70s games, and I'm like, dude, the Raiders took the air out of the football a lot of times. We were known for the aerial attack, but man, if it's 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and the Raiders got the ball, you're probably not getting it back because they're going to run it. They're going to run the shit out of the football. You know what I mean? So that was, you're right about the contrasting styles of play with the coaches.
Well, I think that the game evolved, and I think so did the talent of the players themselves evolved. So it forced the game to evolve too. Players became extremely more athletic and agile. In the '70s and shit. Prior to that, it was all that 9 yards and a cloud of dust.
Yes, sir.
That's how it was. It was just smash mouth football. And it got away from that. Which is a good thing, I guess, too, in a way. Even still now, the game evolves every year. You see it, evolve, and with it comes the rule changes too.
Right.
Some of these coaches nowadays, if they had a coach in those past years, I don't think they could do it. To be honest with you, it would be harder for them to go back and adjust to how the rules were back then and the ability of the players themselves.
But one thing,
you didn't have those pure athletes.
Remember one thing, on Arshell, his first stint, he was doing that finesse. That and all that football. His second stint, I don't know if Al Davis told him that he wants old school football back. He tried that old school football again, didn't work out. He tried that punching in the mouth tactics and didn't work out. The NFL then had evolved to another type of a play, games. That didn't work for him. Plus, he had the right players for that.
Well, that's the funny part. You know what I mean? You talking about Arshell's second stint? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean the bed and breakfast offense that they got? What's my man's name that they got out of retirement? He was running a bed and breakfast. I don't know why it's escaping my mind right now, but he was the offensive coordinator. Yeah, he was. I forgot if anybody out there in the chat knows who I'm talking about.
Who was his coordinator? I don't remember. It was so bad, I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was Tom something. If I'm not mistaken, I think his first name was Tom, but yeah, that was pretty bad. I remember. I know that for a fact because I remember going when Arshell came back and we had a Monday night game against the Chargers, and I was at that game, and that was one of the most abysmal offensive performance. We had Aaron Brooks. It was like one of the most abysmal offensive performances I've ever seen. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was pretty bad in that second iteration of Art Shell for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring it up. I'm trying to find
what is it? I know his first name is Tom. If I'm not mistaken, his first name is Tom. But yeah, he was pretty bad. I think that was like 2000.
Tom Walsh.
Yep. 2006.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him.
Yeah.
In 2006, consisted of new offensive coordinator Tom Walsh, who was his assistant, who was also the assistant head coach for Art Shell in his first stint with the Raiders. So he had already been with us before, but as an assistant head coach.
Wow.
So he was our offensive then too.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad stint right there. I remember that very clearly.
Oh, that's right. And Rob Ryan was the defensive coordinator too then.
Uh-huh.
That was bad.
But yeah, and I would say this. I would also say this. I would put Gruden. I would put Gruden right behind Arshell. I like what Gruden did. I really do. Arshell got us to an AFC Championship game. Game could have been a little different if we had Bo Jackson in that AFC Championship game against Buffalo. But Gruden got us to he got us to the playoffs. He did. We got some. What I liked about Gruden's stint, his first stint, was that he incrementally improved the team. Right. I remember that year he took over. I think we had only won 6 games, and the next year after that we won. We were like 8-8. And then after that, boom, we were like 12-4. You know what I mean? So like, I like the way he incrementally made the Raiders better, gave us an identity again. So I would put him. I put him right behind Art Shell, and after that, it's Slim Pickens.
Yeah, like that. They'll say like after that, it's like pick anybody. You can pick Jack Del Rio. You can pick other guys, but really nothing after that. It was just went downhill.
For Gruden, he was with us in 98, 99, 2000, and 2001. So in 98 and 99, we went 8-8 those 2 seasons.
Okay.
So we were 8-8. We finished third in the West in 98, fourth in 99. And then in 2000, we were 12-4.
Yep.
But we lost. We lost in the AFC Championship game to the Ravens. That was the Tony Saragusa game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. The belly flop on Rich Gannon.
Yep. And then 2001 was the Tuck Rule season. We was 10-6 that year. We finished first in the AFC West, and that's when we lost here in New England to the Patriots in the divisional game. So in his tenure with us, his first go around, he was 38-26. So, which was still good. He was 2-2 in playoff games.
Yeah.
And then obviously we know where he went after that. He went to Tampa Bay, and Callahan took over, and that was a disaster. We were great during the season when Callahan was here. I'll give him that.
Because he ran the same offense. He didn't change it.
Yeah, he never changed anything for the day of the Super Bowl. So that's why Callahan goes down in my book as one of the worst head coaches. Because I'm sorry, but when you take over as a head coach, and that your former head coach that you worked under is now coaching a team that's in the playoffs, and you're in the playoffs. If you don't switch things up because there's a chance that you could meet up in the Super Bowl, and then even the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, you don't change anything, that's just ridiculous. And Tim Brown talked about this too, how they had a whole new game plan set up, but then he decided, nope, fuck it. We're going to stick with the original plan, and we're going to not change to anything. And that's why Tim Brown he still says he thinks it was a conspiracy theory, with Callahan just basically giving Tampa Bay the win.
And I don't really think that I don't think that the locker room particularly cared for Callahan. Didn't seem like the locker room cared for Callahan at all. You know, I think basically, honestly, I'll say that year we went to the Super Bowl and got beat by Tampa Bay. I think the veterans ran that team. I think Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, and Tim Brown, they ran that team. You know, I don't know how much Callahan really coached that team as much as those guys coached themselves. You know what I mean?
Look at the caliber of players.
You remember at the end of the game, at the end, the interview Tim Brown and Jerry Rice, they said, let's run it back one more time because they thinking about Jerry Rice thinking about retiring. They said, let's run back one more year. And what happened next year? Callahan's gone. They got Norv Turner in there, of all people.
Yeah.
So they actually wanted to run it back, but didn't get the right coach. That's Norv Turner. Like, wow. He was not a successful coach. He was one of the worst ones.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, but at that time too, there was I think we can all kind of say there was a little bit of slippage with Al with some of the decision makings that was going on there around that time. The NFL was changing. We weren't changing with the NFL fast enough, which I think was one of the big things that hurt us for a while, for a long time, that we weren't evolving with the way the league was evolving, right? We all remember things, you know, I mean, speaking of coaches and speaking of things, Lane Kiffin, the teleprompter incident, you know what I mean? Like, it just goes to show you we were not, you know, we were not in the modern ages of footballdom anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the things that we were innovative and creative with, you know, those things were already being done, but also surpassing. We weren't surpassing, you know, we weren't traveling with it. So I think that's really been a big hindrance to us.
It seems that Lane Kiffin was trying to change to the modern era of football during that time.
Right.
Al Davis in his ways wanted to stay with the old punch in your mouth, run the ball, throw it down deep. And those, like Jeff said, the players got faster, they got bigger, they got stronger. It was getting stronger and faster. You couldn't do that all the time. And then Lane Kiffin got, I guess, I don't know, I wasn't there, but they got into like, dang, out of here because you're not doing what I said.
And you know what, Chris? Not only that, also, here's another big thing that I think people don't really realize, that now that we've taken a step back and we see how, especially since they moved to Vegas, the money situation changed. And I don't think Al changed with the money situation, right? The way contracts were done, certain things, I don't think that he evolved. You know, there was still kind of a mom and pop feel to how things were being done. You know what I mean? Which, once again, I think that hurt us going forward, that hurt us. And I think we're just now starting to understand and put the infrastructure together now to where you understand your finances, you understand how things are working. You know what I mean? You have a robust scouting department. Certain things, you know, if you listen, you know, to some of the things that went on back in the day, I mean, we had one of the worst scouting departments. You know, we didn't have a lot of guys there. You know, our facilities weren't good. Like, so all these things were changing, and which made it really difficult for any coach during that time period to come in and really be effective, because they were playing behind the 8 ball.
We had no money because Al Davis would go and sign these big ass lucrative contracts with one player, and then the coach said, "Why do these players not play?" Well, we can't afford them. We can't get them. So I'm a coach for your team to ruin my reputation. Yeah, I can't players I want.
I said this
last week. A lot of these good coaches said, "No, the Raiders." That's what they say.
Last week when we were talking about Al Davis on the show, and I made the comment that, you know, you got to remember, even today, we never had a GM for years. Al Davis was the GM,
de facto GM.
The whole idea of having an actual GM with this team now is still a new concept for fans to fully get behind, because for years we never had one. You know, it was always Al Davis, and until McKenzie came along, we really never had anybody in that GM position that was solely responsible for what a GM is supposed to be for. You know, so it's like still a new situation for Raider fans to get used to. They're just so used to Al Davis for the years. And Al Davis, with his contracts years ago, he used to do heavy backloaded contracts and sign them for like 5 years. You know, so that also hampered coaches, because if you sign, say, Howie Long for a 5-year deal, but he got most of his money, his guaranteed money, towards the back end of the contract. Well, guess what? Players back then, when Al was doing those contracts, wouldn't last more than 3 years, because before they would do that big money, he'd get rid of them or trade them away somewhere. You know, so those contracts never came to full, fruition. These guys never played out their full contracts unless they were really a special player. You know, anybody else, it was like, I'm using you for what I can, and then we're done with you. You know, but we've talked about the good coaches that we've had in the good times. You know, we'd be remiss if we didn't cover some of the worst coaches.
It's a shame in the history of the Raiders since 1960. You know, we'll want to name 2 to 3 head coaches that were good for the Raiders, and we had 24. You said only
26 in total. That includes
that's a damn shame. That comes from upper management. That comes from the owners. That comes from all that stuff. But only 3.
If you do it by comparison, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They only have 3.
They've had 3 coaches in
their whole existence.
Yeah. You know, and that's a big factor with, number one, the ownership having faith in those coaches and letting, giving them the tools to build the team and keep the team going.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So that's one thing that Al Davis never had patience for head coaches. And you can see it when you look through the list of head coaches that we've had and how long they were with the team. You know, some didn't make a full season. Some made the full season and then they will go on. Like Art Shell's second stint. He made 1 season, finished 2-14, and he was history. You know,
like we talked about last
experiment.
Like we talked last week, we were talking to Ms. Peggy. Al Davis basically was a mob boss. If I was the head coach, you're gonna do what I say, and you're gonna play a high play, or you're out of here. And that's exactly what Al Davis ran the team. But Al Davis in the chair, he was a de facto GM, like you said. He also was a de facto head coach too.
I mean,
run that play.
At that point,
cool cat.
At that point, Al, like you said, Al was the de facto head coach. You know what I mean? And the other people that he hired, they were just figureheads. Yeah. You know, they were figureheads, and it's like it's almost like what you kind of see right now. What's going on with Jerry Jones, right? It almost has that kind of feeling to where Jerry hires a coach, and you're like, okay, well, how many puppet strings does he have behind his back? You know what I mean? And so that became a reputation for Al. That became a reputation for the Raiders. You know, for at one point, it was an undesirable destination. You know, you couple that with the fact that facilities weren't good, and like you said, upper management and things like that. So, Al cast a giant shadow. He cast a very large shadow over all of his coaches, over the whole organization. You give Mark credit, man. I know we've had some lean years still, but I'll say this: he's had to do a lot to put this thing together, to get it up to the standard of the modern NFL. Right? It's been a journey to get the Raiders into the modern NFL. And it takes time.
Well, Mark Davis' first step was he did the way he should. He should. I mean, he did the way he did. Excuse me. First things first. We need a new stadium. That's the first thing he did. That's exactly what he did.
There it is.
We need a new stadium. Next thing, we need to get the money organization, because there's a guy, I can't remember his name, who was actually embezzling money from the Raiders. I forgot. And Mark found out. So he had to get the stadium together. He had to get all that together. Now the next step was, let's get a team together. Let's get a coach. Like I said, Mark Davis is not a football man. He's a businessman. So he took the business, which he's doing a good job at. So now, he was going by what his father did. Like, I'm going to hire this guy. Hopefully they just run the team. I'll just sit back and do the business aspects.
Right.
And so his choice of coaches wasn't all that. So we're going to start with the worst coach or how are we going to do this? Because there's only 3. You're going to say the best coaches, I think. I don't know what fans say, but I only see 3.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much all in agreement on the 3 best coaches. I mean, even 4 best coaches, really.
We could throw Gruden in there.
Yeah. I mean, Madden and Flores are in a group of their own, as the 2 overall best. You pick which one you like better out of the 2.
Right.
And then, the next grouping would definitely be Art Shell and John, Art Shell's first stint and John Gruden's first stint.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Hopefully, potentially, we're going to be putting Pete Carroll in that same category.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice.
He's either going to be in the Madden Flores category, or he's going to be in the Gruden Art Shell's first stint. I'm hoping he's not going to be in the Gruden Art Shell second stint, where he's just not good. I'm praying to God that he's, but I have a lot of hope. And just like Where's the Flag said, because I think the all-in coaching staff we have now is a show that we're not playing around anymore. And I agree with that 100%.
I agree with that too, 100%.
Pete Carroll put together a good coaching staff. It started with the ownership hiring Pete Carroll, and then it's Pete Carroll building his rest of his coaching staff, to get it to where I think everybody that's a fan of this team is comfortable with where we're going forward. I can't see anybody out there complaining about where we're at right now.
That's the key right there, Jeff. You just said it. Pete Carroll is building a coaching staff. It's not Al Davis building a coaching staff. Al Davis hired head coach. Then he hired the DC. Then he hired OC. Pete Carroll is building his coaching staff. The guys he want there. So that's the key right there.
Yeah, that's definitely the key.
So if we go back, all right. So the team was inaugurated in 1960. So the very first coach we had was a guy named Eddie Erdahl. Right now, he only coached us from 60 to 61. He didn't make the full 61 season. Where is it?
Marty Feldman.
I had it. Come on. Yeah, here it is. So the first season, he went 6-8, finished third in the. Now again, this was back when it was still the AFL, and then his second year, he went 0-2 to start, and then they got rid of him. So again, it was the first season with the team, or the first year with the team. Took over in the middle of 61 was a guy named Marty Feldman, and not the comedian actor Marty Feldman.
I was getting ready to say Young Frankenstein, the Young Frankenstein Marty Feldman.
Exactly. I watched that last night.
I saw the name, and
I watched that last night. That was funny.
I don't want to date myself here, but yeah.
Oh my God.
So he finished off the 61 season at 2-10. Again, finished fourth in the AFL. And then in 62, he started off the season 0-5, and then they booted him. And then the next one after that. So the first few years were again, new team, new players, with the teams just starting out. Was a guy named Red Concrete. He only coached that one season, and he went 1-8, and they booted him. All right. And then guess who took over at that point for 1963?
Mr. Davis.
Davis, is it?
Al Davis takes over in 1963 to 65. In 63, he was named the AFL Coach of the Year. Mm-hmm. He finished with an overall record for the Raiders of 42-23. So he still went out with 23-16. So he still ended his coaching career with a winning record, but he knew football. That's the thing. He knew talent, he knew football, and that's what, was the catalyst for him to become the general managing partner after he stopped coaching. And then you see his full impact on this team. Because prior to that, he was a position coach with the team.
Right.
So once Al took over as head coach, that's when the team really started to change and evolve going forward. Do you guys know the coach that was the coach after him?
Sure.
Who?
John Rauch.
Yep. So, and he was there for 2 years.
I got the list here. I'm cheating. I got the list here.
I know you're cheating.
I just stay quiet on that one. I said,
like I said, it's not cheating unless you get caught. If you didn't know how to list, you wouldn't even.
There you go.
Actually, hang on. I want to go back to Al Davis's record real quick. I forget if he. Come on, where are you?
He was 23, 16, and 3. In them days, they had ties.
Yeah. All right. So in '63, his first year as head coach, Al Davis, he went 10-4 and finished second in the AFL West, which is why he won Coach of the Year, because he took that team that had only like one win, I think it was before that, the year before, and he completely turned them around. Then he went 5-7 with 2 ties, and then 8-5, and then that's when he took over as general managing partner of the team. He basically rode his way into that position. But yeah, John Rauch was then the coach from '66 to '68. He won the AFL championship.
He did.
Rauch did. So that was our first taste with this team as a champion. So that was 1967. So it was 3 years before I was born. Chris, you were already born at that point, right?
What, 67? Yeah, I was born, but I didn't know anything about football. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I'm 70. I'm a 72 guy, so yeah, it was a little bit before my time for sure.
Yeah, I got you by 2 years. Right?
Yeah, I was born. Right? 2 years old, you don't think about football like
no. And then after John Rauch, now we're into the John Madden era, and then this is where the glory years really started for us. I don't know if you guys want to talk about Madden a little bit as far as what you know about him, or if what's your favorite Madden moment, whether it be team related or something he did after he was done coaching, doesn't matter. We're still talking about John Madden. He's still the man,
go ahead, Chris. You had the privilege of watching those guys in the 70s. You know what I mean? So I'd like to hear, your take on it before anything, because like you said, you got a chance to see those guys in the 70s.
Well, yeah. Well, like I said, I was living in LA, and we didn't see the Raiders as much as maybe people in Oakland did or up north. We got, unfortunately, the sorry-ass Rams game. I'm not a Ram fan, so I don't like them. We get to see those games, or the Cowboys. That's all we got on TV, because we only had 2 stations that show football games, a 10 o'clock game and a 1 o'clock game. But then when I got a taste of John Madden on Monday night game, I'm like, hey, who's this team that's beating up on people? Oakland Raiders. And I was like, where the hell is Oakland? Oh, it's by Frisco. So I didn't even know anything about that. But then it was just like the look of them and the way they were playing, they were hitting people. They were like knocking people out the game. And that was Madden, and that was the thing that was Madden's philosophy was, hey, we played dirty, so what? What you gonna do about it? That's what he said. And that's what I liked. Like, okay, let's play dirty. And then when I went to the Super Bowl and saw the team win, that's when I switched over. Like, I was another team's a fan, but I'm not gonna get into that. And I like, this team is dominating. This team is dominant. They go out there and they win, they beat people up. And that's what football to me was all about. Hitting, knocking the stuffing out of you. And that's what Matt brought to the team. He will say his piece, and he backed it up. That's my personal Matt.
Yeah, for me, you want to hear something funny? My first introduction to John Madden was the Miller Lite commercials. Remember John Madden on the Miller Lite commercials?
Great taste.
Remember, and those were going around, early 80s to mid 80s. And, like I said, 82, I was 10 years old. You know what I mean? So I remember watching them commercials and seeing him. So the gregarious personality. So I remember him from that before anything, right? Because at that point, Tom Flores was coaching the Raiders. When I actually got involved with the Raiders. So to kind of go back and start doing the history, because you guys remember when we talked about John Facenda a couple of weeks ago and how he narrated the highlights, and remember what was it? What it used to be NFL This Week. Remember they had the weekly show that came on every week. Yeah. And sometimes it'd be like NFL Follies or NFL this or so that's how I learned about the Raider mystique. Going back, watching and doing my homework, so to speak, going back, watching those things. And I'm like, he coached the Raiders. The guy was on the Miller Lite commercial. He coached the Raiders. And then you start seeing how good those teams were. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Because like I said, for me as a kid, John Madden was more of like, it was more of a comedic type thing with the commercials and all that stuff before I really knew about his football acumen. So it just gave me a whole different perspective of him when I went back and was like, oh shit, he coached these guys, he coached this team, they played that way. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like my introduction to John Madden. You know, just what can you say about the man? You know, the man's an innovator. I mean, of course we know. Look, I was playing Madden the other day. I still play Madden. I was playing Madden the other day. It kind of blows my mind sometimes, and I'm like, this guy.
One of myself. So
yeah, you know what I mean. And it's like so. Yeah, and then you think about his broadcasting career.
Oh my God!
I mean, the broadcasting career. I mean, the man was legendary. Like, it was nothing better than listening to Pat Summerall and John Madden when it was time to call a football game.
Two of the best partnered up guys ever.
Oh man, you know,
without a doubt.
Because
and guess what?
Sit there and to the casual fan, he will explain the game in a fun tell. He'll say, the guy go around and down and boom. Then it made it so exciting to listen to him explain the game to people that don't know the game.
Yeah. I mean, you can argue. Let's be for real. You can argue that he helped usher in the modern day media for the NFL. He helped usher in. I mean, we got to give Howard Cosell his due as well. Great personality. But Madden helped usher in a new way of watching football, right? A real personality-based football guy. But he's also understanding the game. He's an analyst and everything else. But the personality and passion stood out. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, it was always a guilty pleasure to say, yeah, all you people out here capping on the Raiders and saying that our franchise ain't shit, but this and that. But I bet you picked up that controller with John Madden on it. Yeah, I bet you like listening. I bet you like listening to those, to that commentary. And he was a Raider. And the one thing that I was always proud about that, the one thing that made me the most proud about that was he was only a Raider.
Only.
No other team can claim John Madden but us. Right?
Yeah,
There's no other team.
He was never a position coach with another team, never a head coach with another team. He started with us in '67 as a linebacker. Linebackers coach, and then got promoted to be the head coach.
Not the Packers.
Here's a guy that
nobody.
The Steelers, the Cowboys, nobody.
And 78 was his last year coaching, right? So when he retired after the 78 season, and here it is now, 40 something years later, 40 something years later, and he's still relevant in conversations when it comes to coaching because he's still got the best overall record winning percentage in the NFL to this day. He's also, his tenure as an analyst and commentator on the, for the games is still second to none for the most part.
Yeah.
And he's going to be immortalized forever, not just because he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but the damn game.
Franchise game.
If you ever get a chance, watch the documentary on Madden, on the game itself, and what he did to be involved in that, and how much he gave them crap when they first started developing the game, when they first presented it to him, and he basically said it's shit. You got to do different. You got to do it different. It needs to be like this. He laid it all out for them and how to do it, and he gave them that blueprint, and that's why that game has been so successful. And that's why, at the same time they released the first Madden game, the Joe Montana one came out, and it basically blew the Joe Montana one out of the water.
I remember that Joe Montana game. Listen,
Montana was supposed to be the best one ever, and it was supposed to be using the real players' names, but then everything flipped off, and then Madden took over after that. There's been.
I remember playing Madden on PC. Remember, it was just on PC, right? Before they went to the to the consoles and everything. Like you could only play that on the computer.
That's when I
first
played
it.
I first played it on the computer.
Yeah.
Everybody's busting my balls because I absolutely suck in the game right now. I got the Madden 25.
Me too.
I played against one of my co-hosts, Nate Elvira Tenure, the other day when I first got it, and everybody's like, "You suck." I'm like, "Dude, I haven't played Madden since before this kid was even born that I'm playing against. Okay,
Right.
first of all, he's been playing it for years and been playing Madden
Right.
25 for a while. I said, so of course he's going to be better than me. I'm not used to the game. I got to learn it all over again. And it's so evolved since the last time I played it. I mean, the game's so much different now, just the what you can do in it versus what you used to be able to do.
Oh yeah. It's so much more advanced now. You know what I mean? Me and my son, we have some good battles. Me and Rundown, you know, we'll have a few
He's in
battles
the
every once in a
franchise league
while.
with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how one guy that meant so much to the Raiders means so much to
the
people that aren't
world.
Raiders.
To the world.
To the NFL,
There you go.
because he trademarked the NFL to the world. I mean, his face and name is everywhere. You can't mention football without mentioning Madden. So he kind of brought NFL, because NFL back in those days wasn't, because baseball was the number one sport in America. Football was maybe a third, because basketball was next. Because that was the year that was the Celtics and the Lakers
and
all that stuff. NFL the NFL too was in a third place when it came to audience attendance, money generated. Not until Madden and a couple other teams brought the NFL to fold to make it more exciting to watch. Especially when Madden went to the booth. It was really exciting to watch Madden and Pat Summerall do those games.
I would say this. I would say that it coincided.
Games fun.
I would say that it coincided with the emergence of those 1983 quarterbacks, the John Elways, the Dan Marinos, like Joe Montana, even though he wasn't 83, but just that mix of superstar game changing quarterbacks, mixed with the over the top commentary, the analyzation of the game that Summerall and Madden brought to the game. You know, I remember, like I said, I was a real shorty in the 70s, but I remember, Kurt Gowdy, you know what I mean? Kurt Gowdy, and also, like I said before, Howard Cosell and Don Meredith and all those guys, you know what I mean? It was more of like a hokey type, type broadcast, you know what I mean? It was good, but Madden and Summerall brought it to a whole nother viewing level. You know what I mean? With teaching you the game and also imparting enthusiasm for the game. Like, I think John Madden made people understand blocking schemes. Like he made people understand what the offensive linemen were doing and why they were doing it.
That never knew football.
Right.
Yeah. He would say simply. He'll explain to you. He like, especially on teleprompter. He'll like, this guy go over here, this guy blow over here, then boom over here, then explain to you and made it fun for you to watch. Instead of like the guy like, well, he goes to the right, he blocks it. No, he makes it exciting to watch.
I mean, he gets excited for a guy executing a kick out block as much as he's doing, he's excited for a guy, catching the 80-yard pass for a touchdown. He taught the game in such a way with his enthusiasm, it made you pay attention to every aspect of the game. And that's why Madden was legendary.
I'm telling you, the best moment for me, Madden, when he was in the broadcast booth, he was doing the Dallas Cowboys at the Thanksgiving Day. I forget who he was playing, but he sat there, got on the teleprompter, and explained what a turducken was.
Oh, that was when they played the Packers. Oh yeah, I remember that.
He explained what's a turducken. He said, "Well, you take the turkey, and he had a teleprompter doing it." See, and that was fun to me. That was funny.
And you stuff that in here, and then you put this guy here, and then you put him over here, and then you put it all together. Yeah.
That's no football, but it was so entertaining to watch that. That's what it makes it so entertaining.
Yep.
So getting back to Madden real quick, as far as this coaching tenure, so he finished with a record. He coached 142 games at the Raiders, so he's 103 wins. 32 losses, 7 ties with a 750 percentage. That's based on X amount of games. He's got the highest winning percentage. Now, next was Tom Flores right after him. So when Madden retired in 78, Flores took over. But here's the thing. You got to look at these two teams, these two coaching regimes. They both had something that no other Raider team really has had since. And that was Al Davis taking
at his best.
Well, at his best, but also taking players and giving them that second chance to excel with the Raiders. Like those teams
Right.
from the 70s that John Madden was the coach of. You look back at those rosters and what he had to work with and what Al Davis brought in. He brought in sometimes the worst of the worst as far as attitudes, whether it be off the field issues, in-game issues,
Right.
just didn't get along with anybody. Brought them in and Madden was able to turn those guys into winners. They were nasty. And Flores the same way, but they weren't the nasty ass players like they were when Madden was the coach. Probably the worst or the nastiest one would have been probably Alzado at that point. Giving
Yeah.
Alzado his third chance in the NFL.
Yeah.
John
giving
Matuzak.
Plunkett
Remember
his
John
third chance.
Matuzak?
Yep. Giving Plunkett his third chance and Plunkett getting 2 Super Bowls. And, Howie Long explains it best when after they won the Super Bowl in 83 and he looked over and he saw Lyle Alzado crying. He goes, I've never seen him cry before. And to see him cry, you knew how much of a tortured soul he was for those years. And now he finally is at the pinnacle of the height of the sport itself by winning that Super Bowl, something he had been, missing for years.
Yep.
And another thing with Flores, I don't know if a lot of people remember this though, too. He actually kind of had 2 stints with us.
No, he had one.
He was 79 to 81.
No, they split it because he was an Oakland Raider coach, and then they said LA.
So it's considered 2 stints because he was the coach when we moved to LA.
He still was a coach.
People look at it as he was a coach 2 different times for us. Really, it was
right, but it's only
continuous.
One. I looked at that like, wait a minute.
With Mark Carbone.
Look at this.
So
yeah,
Flores,
that's what I looked at.
Flores wins the Super Bowl in 1980 as Oakland. Okay. He finishes a record from 79 to 81 with a 27 and 21 win record. So barely over 500, but still winning record. Then when we go to LA from 82 to 87, he's 56 and 32 and wins another Super Bowl. Wins the first one in LA.
Yep.
So we now have 2 in Oakland and 1 in LA.
When the Rams played in the Super Bowl this last 2 years, a couple years ago, then I don't say LA got their first Super Bowl. The guy said, "Wait, what? No, he didn't."
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. He said that. LA finally got their first Super Bowl champion. No, dummy. Raiders won the first Super Bowl
83, baby. 83.
Yeah. No, he was thinking that the Rams LA finally got a Super Bowl champion. No, shut up. Shut them up. Like
some people don't recognize us as an LA team because we weren't there. We weren't there for that long. We were only there for 5 years.
No.
But still, we were still based in LA. We still won a Super Bowl in LA, whether the Rams fans like it or not. They can kiss our Raider asses. So
there you go.
As far as I'm concerned.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and now I know we were kicking around as far as everybody's personal preference on who they would rank as our number 1 and number 2 coach between Madden and Flores. And why I think I would give the slight edge to Madden, even though we only won the 1 Super Bowl, it's his impact on the sport.
Yeah.
Overall.
Right.
Not just as a coach, but as a coach and as a commentator and just the living legacy of the game itself, which brings so many more fans to the sport because what kid doesn't like playing football on a game? On a in a video game, and that brings them to wanting to be a fan of the team and of the NFL itself.
Well, so we can sum it up. We can sum it up like this. I mean, Tom Flores is one of the great Raider coaches, but John Madden is iconic.
Yeah,
John Madden's an icon. So and I'm sure Raider fans will agree with that. You know what I mean? Especially the older ones that really understand the lineage of the Raiders. You definitely have to put John there.
Because
you know what I mean?
You look at John on the sidelines, like he said, he was one of the first fat guys they hired. He didn't look like a head coach. He did. He looked like who's this guy on the field on the sideline? He wore this regular shirt and the slacks he wore. And that was it.
Yep.
He didn't wear the suit like the Tom Landry did back in the day and all that. He looked like just a regular person out there saying, who is that fat guy on the field? But you see him jumping up and down. You see him arguing with the referees. He just has so much intensity when he was coaching. that.
Oh yeah,
you get that's something you have to fall in love with. Like he was, if this player did something stupid, he was right there behind him and say, "Okay, you know what? You did something stupid, but hey, it cost us. But we won the game with that." He don't pat him on the back. He didn't downplay any players. He never negative talk about any players. He didn't say, "I don't like him," or this that. If John Madden made a mistake, he owned up to it. A lot of these coaches don't own up to the mistakes they made. Like, the player wasn't ready to play. No, you're the coach. You're supposed to get them ready. That will own up to it. That's what I liked about him.
So after Flores, now we start dipping into the era. Except for because Art Shell's still to come yet. So after Flores was everybody's favorite to hate, Mike Shanahan. I hated him with a passion.
Oh yeah,
he is still to this day one of my most hated coaches that we ever had, and just in general as a coach, no matter
without a doubt.
Now,
man, I couldn't stand looking at him on the sidelines when he played when he coached for Denver. You know what? We got to do a show. We got to do a show one day. We got to do a show one day, not only about the Raider coaches, but we need to do a show one day about the coaches that we couldn't stand that coached against us as well. It's some names in there that I can. That's a long list there.
You can do that.
I'm putting Marty Schottenheimer right up in there, but we'll save that. We'll save it.
I like that idea.
Like you said, Jeff, you want to punch Tom Brady in the face? Mike Shanahan, if I see him walking down the street at a Walmart one day, I'm just going to sit there and hit him, and he's going to say, why? Because I want to do better.
Because he's Mike Shanahan.
Yeah,
because he's Mike Shanahan.
He has that face. Like, shut up.
So
him and Marty were my two. I couldn't do either one of them.
Yeah,
in typical Al Davis fashion, that started with Mike Shanahan and continued on well after him. He got a season and a half out of us. We got a season and a half out of him before we fired him. So 88 to 89, he went 8-12, and Al Davis decided he wasn't going to pay him for part of his contract, so he ended up going to court battles against Al Davis and the Raiders for years, which I don't even know if it got settled. I have no clue if it did or not. I didn't even look it up. I just can't stand Shanahan, which is, I think, probably another reason why I hate the 49ers now, too, because it's Kyle. It's his kid. You still fell off from that tree, and I still don't like you.
Yeah, so, exactly.
No.
Fuck Shanahan.
You know what? That's kind of what if you guys want to talk about just real quick, that's kind of what got Greg Papa booted from the Raiders, because he was kind of fraternizing with the Shanahans, trying to get them interviews to come back to coach the Raiders. And once Mark Davis found out about that, he didn't like that at all. So I heard that was one of the reasons why we don't have Greg Papa anymore as our main announcer, because he was flirting with the Shanahan. And isn't it ironic that Shanahan's kid is coaching the Niners and Greg Papa is he's the voice over there of the Niners? So that was
that's right there. I didn't know that. It's good to know.
Yeah.
See, and I still to this day I blame Mike Shanahan for ruining RG3 when Shanahan was the coach.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
He ruined that kid's career. Ruined that kid's career. Kid had a promising career ahead of him and fucked them over. So after Shanahan, it's the first stint of Art Shell. So Art Shell comes in 89 to 94. And this was the good stint. This is, the first go around with us is as him being the head coach. And at this point, the first African-American head coach in the NFL. And he was successful. And like I said earlier, I think it's great that he was successful, because I think this could have gone in such a negative way with certain people in this country, because you know how people can be. They can just be complete assholes and ignorant fuckers.
Exactly.
I think
but I'll tell you this, Jeff. I'll tell you this real quick, not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
For that to happen, it had to be in a place like Los Angeles.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like that helped. that he was in a city like LA at that time. You know what I mean? For him to be able to kind of come in and assimilate and be accepted really quickly. And so, I don't think it could have happened in some other places, as easy.
Yeah, like you said, right?
Like that would.
Jeff,
I'll tell you right now that never would have happened in either one of the New York teams. Absolutely not back then. No way.
Right.
And where he coached there made a big impact too, because USC is right across the street from the Coliseum.
Yep.
Both these places are basically right in the middle of LA, central LA.
Pretty much.
Central LA, but
yes, you are.
Right around LA. And most community is diverse. It's not, that.
Isn't the Coliseum right in Watts, right? Or right on the outskirts of Watts?
No, outside. No.
No. It's not in Watts. It's pretty much you're getting close to the bordering of South Central.
Yeah.
LA. That's where you're looking at when
I've been to the Coliseum, but that was back in
it's in between down. It's like
85.
What? 15 minutes, 20 minutes from downtown LA. It's like right down one street, Figueroa.
I mean, I do know from when I was there. I mean, the area wasn't the most nicest looking until you turn the corner into the facility for the stadium, and it's green grass, white ivory statues.
Oh man, that was
back out to the main road, and it's burned out buildings. People walking. It just.
I tell you what, it's really changed.
Like me, my mother, and my father driving around in a black Cadillac with gold trim on it in 1985. We looked super out of place.
You got lucky.
Yeah.
You got lucky.
Because my dad even said, he goes, "Don't be staring out the window." I said, "I'm not staring out the window. I'm just looking around." He goes, "Don't look around."
You guys lucky.
Yeah, you kind of had to have your head on a swivel back in those days, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think this coincides with what Chris and I talked about, and actually, I think it was the first show when the three of us were on the first time. Art Shell came over as the head coach in '89, which was still part of that, and I think this is what also helped us hire him as the coach at that time too. Was the whole pop culture with rap, where it was taken off in the West Coast rap side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a perfect blend. It was the perfect moment. Let's just put it that way.
It was the right
time. It was definitely the perfect moment. If this would have been like 6 years earlier, I don't know how well it would have gone over. It would have been a tougher. I think at the time that it was the perfect timing, and the team was built right, and he had a successful tenure with us.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst game you could say he had was when they came to Buffalo to play in that playoff game, and we got absolutely smoked.
Yeah, we smoked 51.
Well, here's the thing. What Art Shell did is ushered in a new brand of Raider football. It was a rebranding of the Raiders from the Raiders of the 70s, right? Because he that was a rebrand there, like you said, with the music, the cultural thing. But we still had that identity and mystique. I'll never forget when the Lakers were battling the Pistons late, in the late 80s.
Those were some fights, those games too. I remember.
I mean,
those.
Al Davis, he was fond of the Pistons. I remember he sent them a whole bunch of Raider gear when they were playing the Lakers in the finals, when they had the bad boy Pistons and all that stuff. They were walking around, Isaiah Thomas and those guys. They were walking around. They were walking around wearing Raider stuff, Raider gear, and they're playing the Lakers in L.A.
I mean, John Sally. I think we had a nice Raider hat.
Yep. They had Isaiah Thomas was wearing a Raider T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like that's how.
Back then too, wasn't he? Wasn't Rodman on that team?
Yeah. Rodman was on that team. Yeah,
he was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. So that's the influence that the Raiders had back then. That was like 88. That was back like 88. When they were doing that kind of stuff. So Art knew how to bring the mystique of the Raiders out, but he also ushered in a new brand of the Raiders that coincided with the hip hop and certain things that came along with that.
Just that comment right there from Rauch says it all too. Football has always been a microcosm of society, which is 100% true.
Now there's no choice about it. It wasn't like that back in the 70s. It wasn't nothing like that. But now,
no.
And I think, coach, like you said, came out and all that stuff. and the rappers wearing the gear of their team, that's when they start coming to microhands.
Now, I'll say this. I think that football. I think particularly for the Raider brand, it was the birth of our West Coast movement as far as hip hop, as far as rap music. I think it coincided with the Raiders being here. That's where they got the identity from. But I would say that, like if you're talking about music influence in the sport, I don't think there's anything other. I think hip hop influenced basketball more overall. I think it changed basketball. You know what I mean? But just for that sliver of just a sliver of the West Coast, that definitely our identity was definitely tied with the Raiders then, for sure.
But you got to remember that we also had another team here before the Raiders got here. The Rams were here, but they never influenced anybody.
No. They weren't, because you know what? They didn't carry a mystique. They didn't carry. There's not a mystique there.
You got to look at the colors too, man. The Raiders were
black. It's too much.
Black, the Rams were baby blue and yellow. I mean,
they were white. They were white originally.
I mean, it's kind of hard to be. It's kind of hard to be a gangster rapper when you're wearing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, that's a little different. When wearing the Raider colors, that tells you, ooh, I got you.
I mean, like I said before, you can get up every day and rock something. You could throw something black and silver on. That's an easy wardrobe for you to coordinate every single day. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get up every day. You know what I mean? Look, I don't do the gang banging thing unless you're tripping. It's hard to get up and do the blue thing every day, and you know what I mean? Like different types of
I'm not getting up in the morning. I'm not getting up in the morning and putting pastel colors on.
Right.
You put your blue,
exactly.
Ram jersey on. You walk in the wrong neighborhood.
There you go. That's another thing. See, that was another deterrent for a lot of people that lived in LA. Especially around that time, you just couldn't go walking outside wearing blue. I don't care if it was the Rams. I don't care if that was your team. If you're, especially in those 80s and, in those 80s and 90s, you walk in the wrong neighborhood with that and you might not come out of there.
Yep.
So you had to be cautious about what you wore. That was another thing that made the Raiders so endearing, because it was a neutral color. Like there was, people identify with it now, but by and large, it was a neutral color that you could wear without saying, okay, I'm affiliated to this or I'm affiliated to that. Because back in those days, that was important. That was major.
No, they shoot first, ask question afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't know he was a Rams fan.
I like the black because it's slimming, so it makes a big guy like me look a little skinnier when I wear all black, which is why I don't wear stripes either. I'm not wearing verticals or horizontals.
Me and Papa Roman wear black all our lives, so we're good.
Yeah, for real. My wife goes, if you buy anything else black today, I was at the Nike store earlier today, and she goes, you better not buy anything black. You better not buy anything black.
I get my color palette is I don't wear white because I eat like a slob sometimes, and I get stains on white. But I wear black like this, or I go gray. So those are my colors.
Neutral colors.
My color palette is black and silver, or black and gray.
You can wear anything with black. You can wear any color, any off color with black. Anything. It goes with everything.
Yeah.
So.
It sucks. Like like if you ever feel like if you ever fill out like a questionnaire or something, and they're like, "What's your favorite color?" And it's like you don't want to just put one. You just always want to put silver and black. I always do that. So as it's like
the same way with me too. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I never just want to put black or I want to put them both together, because that's what I rock predominantly. You know what I mean? So, Raider fans, real Raider fans know where we're coming from when we talk about that.
Exactly. Yep.
So continue on after Art Shell. All right. So now we're getting into this kind of shitty era.
This kind of.
So 95 to 96 was Mike White. I don't know how many people really remember Mike White. I don't think he was that bad of a coach, to be honest with you. He had potential, but it just didn't work out. Al Davis being Al Davis. What's up, Jack Kenna? What's up, Not Bueno? He didn't last long. So, I mean, there's really not a lot to talk about him too much.
I hated Mike White with a passion. I hated him. But then
You know, like
I was on a show with AR and Jason earlier today, and I said Mike White and AR made a good point to me. They had no money, they had no draft picks, they had nothing. And I really didn't think about that. I hit him as a coach, but I didn't think about what he had to work with.
So he had nothing.
Mike White was the coach when we moved back to Oakland too.
Yeah.
So
he had nothing.
Mark Shell was the last coach in LA because at the end of that season we moved back to Oakland.
Right. But see, I didn't see he made a very valid point. And I said, you know what, you're right. Come think about it. He didn't. I look back, and then after he said that, after we got off, I went back and looked at it. We had no picks, no money, no anything. Yeah. So Mike White he had to do what he can or what he had. And then I think he wasn't really a bad coach because he really didn't have nothing to work with.
Well, that's why I was saying a little while ago when we first started. That's why I was saying that a lot of these coaches that we're going to name, as far as coaches that we didn't really care for, they didn't really have a whole lot to work with because, like I was saying, Al was he was not transitioning into the modern NFL the way that he should have, and that hampered every coach that we had. You know what I mean? Like the decision making was so bad at that point. You know, we're in between LA. We're going back to Oakland. When we go back to Oakland, the things weren't agreed upon as far as renovations to the stadium. It was so much that was going on that the product on the field suffered because the infrastructure from within was so bad. So no coach had a chance in those years. Now that we understand how the NFL works.
Al was still living in the past, like trying to structure the team like he used to.
Right.
Like these other coaches, because these other coaches he was bringing in, they were progressive. They were more progressive style coaches. Right. Because after Mike White was Joe Bugel, who was one of those guys that was a good coordinator, but not a good head coach. You know, when he proved that, he went 4-12, lasted 1 year with us in '97, and then in '98 to 2001 is the Gruden era, the first go around with Gruden. You know, and it
felt because I remember Joe Bugel. I felt like Joe Bugel was kind of in over his skis a little bit. Remember, he had came from the Redskins, you know, Commanders now, but back then he came from the Redskins.
Yeah.
I still call him the Redskins.
I think he was an offensive line coach, wasn't he? For the Redskins back then.
Yeah, because he was
under Joe Gibbs,
the maker of the Hogs during the '80s.
Right. Under Joe Gibbs. Yeah. So you know, like I said, I never felt like I never felt a whole lot of confidence in him.
He had a pulse of the team. It seemed like the team didn't respect Joe Bugel. They like,
there you go.
Who is this guy? You know, he's a crashman off the street. That's what they treat him like. He was nobody. They didn't respect him. You could tell the players when they're on the sidelines with Joe Bugel, they like, whatever you say.
Because he was an Al Davis
before us too. Joe Bugel. He was
with Arizona.
Yeah,
Arizona.
He was horrible there. How he lasted as many years as he did in Phoenix is beyond me.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know either. But yeah, he was just kind of a figurehead. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why, like you said, after Gruden came in, and what was refreshing about Gruden was that Gruden came in with his own personality, and he wasn't going to be a puppet for Al Davis. He brought a new type of energy to the Raiders. That's where I give credit to Gruden in. He brought a type of intensity to the Raiders that we hadn't had since John Madden.
Right.
And you have to be real about that.
Yeah.
He also brought that all the rave at that time, which was the West Coast offense.
Right.
Which is what Al Davis wanted, because Al Davis always liked, you know, the deep passes, the offensive based teams. And that's what he saw in Gruden, and that's why he brought Gruden in, who at the time was the youngest coach in NFL history.
Yeah.
At age 39, right? I think that's what it was, right? 39.
I think he was 38.
He was 38.
Yeah, he was 38.
They're going on 39. Yeah, he was the youngest at that time.
At age 39, he was the then youngest head coach. Oh, the youngest to win a Super Bowl. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was.
No, you're right. He was younger than that when he was hired. But still, I mean, he brought that West Coast, you know, that flashy type offense, and he brought in the right players run that offense. Like he brought in Charlie Garner from Philadelphia. He
what a
saw
player.
something in Rich Gannon, who was a journeyman quarterback prior to that, just like Plunkett was years before that. He brought him in, and he knew that he could run that offense the way he did. He had Tim Brown, he had Jerry Rice. We still had an awesome offensive line. We had a good defense. I mean, that team was built. That team could have been something if him and Al Davis didn't have that falling out. Let's put it that way. This team could have been successful between that and that stupid ass tuck rule over here in New England during that snow game.
I'll tell you,
the Patriots run never would have started.
No,
and that would have been us. That would have been us starting our run at that point.
Yeah.
It was almost like a Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones type thing. On a little bit lesser scale. You know what I mean? Here you are, you got two successful head coaches, and they're turning the franchise around, but the owner couldn't get out of his own way to let that manifest. Right.
See, that's one thing out there. He wanted his fingerprint on everything the Raiders did. Instead of letting the coach be the coach, he want to have this is what I want. Okay, well, hire the coach that you want and let him do it. But don't go say, I want you to do this now. And that caused a lot of friction between the head coach and like with Jerry Jones and Jimmy. They won the Super Bowl. How do you fire a Super Bowl winning coach?
Yeah.
So it's like that. So Gruden really never got a chance.
Just personality clashes. That's what it comes down to.
And Gruden and Al Davis didn't get along and really ruined a good thing because
I think that set our franchise back.
Jack, wrong show. Not tonight. Tonight's history lesson.
You
We're
guys
not talking recovering.
Look, you guys remember the tuck rule was John Gruden's last game.
Yep.
That was John Gruden's last game as a Raiders coach. Right?
If I'm not mistaken, he didn't fly back with the team either after that game, if I remember correctly. Or was that Parcells that did that? Somebody did it. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was him.
Yeah, I think I kind of heard something about that as well. But
when they lost, either they lost in the Super Bowl or they lost in a playoff game, and that coach didn't fly back with them to their home base. I forget who it was.
Yeah, that was that was tough. And if you guys just really think about this, just think about if Al would have just allowed Gruden after the tuck rule game to gather themselves, collect themselves, and move forward with that team that we had. We were on the verge. I think we were on the verge of being a really dominant team for a few years then, if we would have kept Gruden, because we had unbelievable talent on those football teams.
That's
two of the greatest wide receivers to play the game at that time with Tim Brown and Jerry Rice.
That's why I said earlier that Brown Rice came back in the press conference and said, we're going to run it back.
Yes, sir.
Again, John Gruden going to be there, but he wasn't. So
yeah, and look what came in after him. His assistant head coach, his offensive coordinator, Bill Callahan, and Bill Callahan screwed the pooch. He had a successful season.
Because
he was there for 2 years.
Why have a successful season?
2003, but
tell me why he had a successful season.
Because he had the veterans on his team, like I said earlier, that led that team.
He also kept the same
Gruden's offense. Yeah.
He didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. He didn't change anything. He didn't, and like I said earlier, he never had. I don't think he ever had the respect of the guys in the locker room. Remember, he came out with that. This has to be the dumbest, the dumbest team in America. Remember that? Yep. And after that, dude, that locker room turned on him so fast.
Man.
I remember Charles Woodson was pissed. I remember all those guys were pissed when he said that. You know what I mean? So it just kind of shows you he's got to go down as one of the worst coaches in Raider history as well. Just for that alone.
Callahan? Oh yeah.
Look,
just for that alone.
This, right? So the year he took over after Gruden left, right? He goes 11-5, takes him to the Super Bowl, gets blown out in the Super Bowl, then comes back the next year because who didn't think we were going to repeat, basically? Goes 4-12. 4-12 the following season with that team. Really didn't lose anything that season.
He quit on a team.
4-12, and the team quit on him too because of what he said. His comments.
The team quit on him.
Who wants to play for a guy that's like?
Well, isn't that the year? Isn't that the year that that Gannon got hurt against Tampa Bay? Remember that? Remember he hurt his neck. That's when he had to retire. Was that year? Did we still have Callahan then? Or have we moved on from Callahan? Because I remember when we came back, I remember that's when we were rematching Tampa Bay. I think it was a Monday night game. And that's when Gruden, I think he ran into Derek Brooks or something like that and hurt his neck. And that was it for him. Was Callahan still coaching that team then?
It was a fall.
I'm looking for right now to see when.
That might have been 2004.
2004 was Norv Turner.
Norv Turner?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think it was 2003.
Because was last year.
So, okay. All right. So here it is right here. So, all right. So Callahan, his supporters claim he recognized that the team was aging and needed younger talent. To get it, he would have to cut existing salaries, an assertion that did not sit well with many of the team's veterans. It also did not help that quarterback Rich Gannon was sidelined with injuries much of the season. On November 30th, after a 22-8 loss to Denver Broncos, Callahan said the Raiders must have been the dumbest team in America in terms of playing the game. After a lackluster 4-12 season, Callahan was fired by Al Davis.
Wow.
Yep.
That's when.
What year was that, Jeff?
That was 2003.
Yep.
So Gannon
2003.
Gannon was there, wasn't playing. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, he has to go down. And if we want to talk about, worst coaches, I would also put, I'll give you a quick 3 for me. I would also give you, of course, Josh McDaniels. I know he gets a lot of hate, but I tell you what, he wasn't there that long, but just, I think his track record from previous places, I think that got him in trouble before he even coached the game with us, because everybody was kind of looking at him under the microscope. Like, wait a minute, I don't trust this guy at all. You know what I mean? And I got that sentiment from a lot of Raider fans when we hired him. It was like, I don't trust this guy. So I would go him. I would actually throw Jack Del Rio in there just because Jack Del Rio kind of screwed up a good thing. You know what I mean? I think if Jack Del Rio could have, if Jack Del Rio would have put his ego to the side and all the bravado and all of that shit that he was bringing with him to the locker room, I think that he would have had a nice successful run with the Raiders because they responded to his coaching. But I think Jack Del Rio got in his own way. Right. So I think those two guys right there, they kind of stick out to me as far as guys that just kind of screwed it up before they even got a chance to get going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because after Callahan was Norv Turner. So once Callahan was canned, that's when we brought Norv Turner in.
Yeah.
And he was awful too.
That was a disaster.
He went 9-23. And everybody thought he was going to be phenomenal. I mean, he sucked when he was with the Chargers. Another guy that's great offensive coordinator, horrible head coach.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible head coach.
Yeah.
So there's really not much to say about Norv Turner's tenure here because they were
not a leader of men. Norv never gave you the impression that he was a leader of men.
Nope. And then this is now after Norv Turner, Al Davis tried the Art Shell 2.0, and that was a complete disaster.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Probably one of the worst seasons we've ever had. We went 2-14. Actually,
by that time the NFL had passed Al Davis by and Art Shell by that time.
Yeah.
Passed a lot of people by at that time.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Art Shell tried to bring back that old Al Davis that smashed mouth football, and it felt like, really, you playing that? No. You're playing Madden. You playing Madden 106, and we're playing Madden 20 or 24. So
let me tell you something. I know that one firsthand. Guys. Like I said, I was at that Monday night game, and if you guys can, Google Monday night Raiders Chargers Monday Night Football 2006. That was Art Shell, and I was at that game. I'll never forget it. I drove back home to LA after that game from Oakland. We drove right when that game was over with. That was one of the longest drives. I've never, ever in my life. I think we got beat like 26-0 or something like that, was it? What was the score in that game? I don't think we even scored. I don't even think we crossed midfield in that game. And that was a Monday night game. And I mean, the Chargers ran up and down the field. It was one of the worst games that I had ever been a part of. And I'll never forget that. As we were walking out of the stadium, people were so pissed. I never forget it. One guy said, "This team will never be good again until Al Davis dies." Like, that's how pissed off people were walking out of the stadium.
They were saying that a whole lot.
Oh man, dude! Like, I mean, I'm talking about that was one of the most embarrassing. I didn't want to go back to work. Like, that's how bad it was. I'm like, dude, I don't even want to show my face at work right now. It was that horrible. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know it was 2006, and we played the Chargers on Monday night. And did we get Richard Seymour that night? I think that was the first night Richard Seymour played for us after we traded for him, because we came out with those white jerseys with the silver numbers. So we laid a fat goose egg in that game for sure. And like I said, I think Aaron Brooks was on that team. I think we had Aaron Brooks at the time.
We lost 27-0.
Yeah, it is. Yep. I said 26. Yeah, it was 27-0. I remember that like it was yesterday. That's how bad that was one of the worst games I've ever been to.
Yeah, 27-0.
Yep. Richard Seymour came out. I remember, because Richard Seymour, he had 2 sacks in that game. The Chargers in 2006. That was a Monday night game.
Yeah.
That's when the Chargers had Sean.
All right, yeah, it was the first game of the season.
First game of the year.
September 11th. 27-0.
Yeah. I was there on that. Yeah, it was 9/11 that day. Everyone was making a big stink about that game, and we had got Richard Seymour right after training camp, and you know what I mean? Like, I mean, dude, when I tell you, I've never seen an offense that bad. I've never seen an offense that bad. I think that year we went 2-14, right?
Yeah.
That was yeah. I don't even know how we won 2 games that year. I think that springboarded us to Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah, it was. That's like a number 1 pick.
Yep. We were terrible. I mean, when I say terrible, that was terrible. So yeah, Arshell, but at the time, like I said, the game had passed Arshell by.
We didn't have we had Warren Sapp still on the team.
Yeah.
So we didn't have we didn't have Richard Seymour yet.
Oh, we didn't have Seymour yet?
No, our defensive linemen were Brayton, Burgess, Hawthorne, Huntley, Kelly, Sands, and Sapp.
Oh, Terrell Sands. I like Derek Burgess. Derek Burgess used to be good. Maybe I was thinking about the game with Richard Seymour. Maybe that was when we played Denver. I know we played somebody, and I just knew he was going to.
Listen to who we had on the team then, right? So we had Aaron Brooks, we had Zach Crockett, Justin Fargas. Our wide receivers were Randy Moss, Will Buchanan. Tight ends were nobody really. Courtney Anderson.
Will No Hands Buchanan?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Our offensive line was Robert Gallery was the biggest name on that list.
Don't you have a jersey?
One of the biggest busts as well, man. Like, they had to move that man to guard.
So our linebackers were Ricky Brown, Isaiah Yukajuba,
yeah. Yukajuba, yep.
I met him in person, actually. Thomas Howard, Kirk Morrison, Robert Thomas, and Sam Williams.
Man, rest in peace to Thomas Howard. I like Thomas Howard. He was a good linebacker.
Weren't bad because then we had Nnamdi Asomugha.
Right.
We had Michael Huff, Stanford Rauch, Stuart Schweigert, Fabian Washington, Janikowski and Leckler were our kickers.
Yeah, rest in peace to Fabian Washington as well.
All-time best long snapper, John Kondo, was on the team then.
Wow.
Oh, I remember him.
Jerry Porter was on the reserve. He was on IR that year. Lamont Jordan, running back, was on IR. Yeah, we kind of had a pretty shitty team. Adam Treyu was our center, but he was on IR.
Yeah. Aaron Brooks was the quarterback, right?
Yep. It was at quarterbacks were Aaron Brooks, Tosiasa Supu, and Andrew Walter.
Wow. Oof.
Andrew Walter.
That just makes me say, from Stanford, remember?
Yeah, I know. Like,
listen. That makes me, just hearing those names at quarterback makes me say, we better go out and fucking draft a quarterback. We better get a damn quarterback in this place. I know we got Geno, but you better go find a young quarterback. And it's time for this to stop. You know, I'm done with the Garoppolos and the these and the that. I'm done with it, man. Like, get us a young quarterback in here ASAP.
I watched some highlights of the game, man. I remember that game, man. I was like, oh God, that was
bad.
Talent-wise. That was a weak talent team right there.
Let me tell you something, man. You should have been in the stadium that night.
We had a couple of guys on the team, but it wasn't a team. It was just like this guy was good.
Yeah, man. That I'm talking about, man. That was one of the worst experience I've ever had at a Raider game.
He's still alive. Somebody saying
not Fabian Washington. The other kid he had. I'm sorry, not the other kid we had. Not Fabian Washington. DJ Hayden. I'm sorry. I meant DJ Hayden.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I meant DJ Hayden. Yeah, I'm sorry about that out there, guys. I meant DJ Hayden.
I didn't hear you say it. Sorry. So after Art Shell was Lane Kiffin, who absolutely was horrible. I hate to admit it, but I got an autographed football over there from him. I won in a raffle. Ugh. He was 5-15. He was there from 07 to 08. Another unsuccessful coach. And then came Tom Cable. Well, everybody at first liked him. They liked him at first, but then that soured really fast on him, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Cable
08
to 210.
Well, here's the thing that you think about guys like Tom Cable, right? Tom Cable was one of those guys that was almost like Antonio Pierce. He wanted to embody what the Raiders were. He understood what the Raiders were. But like Antonio Pierce, he didn't have the resources. He didn't have the support that he needed. He had the passion for coaching. He understood what he needed, but he was playing with a half a deck when everybody else had a full deck, right? Yeah. And that was just like when you start getting into those years where you're talking about guys like Tom Cable, those were the lean years as far as the way that the team functioned internally. I mean, I went to the Oakland Coliseum for 20 straight years for every opening home game. And I'm gonna tell you, that was the worst stadium in the league. Hands down. You know what I'm saying? Maybe and maybe the Chargers was right behind them, but that was the worst stadium in the league. And no one was coming to play for the Raiders in those conditions. It just wasn't happening. So,
played on dirt field.
Wasn't the building rat infested too? Like there were rats everywhere.
Oh man, look, hey, check this out. Quick story. I was reading the other day that they were, how the A's played there as well, the Oakland A's, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing a broadcast, and they say they look up and they look and they keep hearing this rattling noise in the ceiling. They say like 2-3 minutes later, a goddamn possum comes falling out of the ceiling in the announcer's booth. You know what I mean? So a possum. So just that's what they were dealing with in Oakland. I didn't even buy food. I didn't even buy food in there. We ate before we got to the game.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be buying shit in that.
Look. About the only thing I did was
look at Tom Cable. See what originally he was the O-line coach.
Yeah,
good damn O-line coach. He was good at that.
Yeah,
like you said, Bobby, he was the rah guy. He was the he had the Raider spirit in him, but he had a head coaching experience.
So, and remember, he punched the guy out on the coaching staff. He punched the guy out on the coaching staff.
But see, it takes a special guy to be a head coach of a team. Tom Cable was a good cheerleader, but he wasn't a good head coach.
No,
you want a good laugh?
We liked it because of his like same thing. We fell in love with Tom Cable, as we fell in love with Andrew Pierce, rah Raider Nation. But
listen to the draft class that he had when he took over, right? So this is his draft class. First pick was Rolando McClain, Lamar Houston, Jared Veldeher, Bruce Campbell, Jacoby Ford, Walter McFadden, Travis Gothel, Jeremy Ware, and Stevie Brown. McClain ended up being a complete bust.
Bad head case
for a while. A lot of people hate him.
Oh yeah,
a lot of people can't stand Rolando McClain. Everybody thought he was going to be this super duper, linebacker, and he ended up being a bust. I think the best
he was a head case
for him is that in the dirt in Oakland when he picked up, I forget who it was, and he basically just
and he body slammed him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jacoby Ford wasn't bad. Jacoby Ford was good.
Yeah. And all that. He was good.
Yeah. Jared Veldeher had a few good years. He's a big guy. He was a real big guy.
They called him the Incredible. He was like he looked like the Incredible Hulk. He was a big bastard.
Yeah, like I said, we were already at that point, we were starting to fall victim to not drafting well because of the lack of scouting department. Yeah. You know what I mean? Certain things that other teams were already implementing and had in place, we were still doing things the old way. You know what I mean? Like, just think about how we talked about Jamarcus Russell, but that just shows you the lack of scouting and, Al being a one-man band. You know what I mean? And that just came back to hurt us. It came back to haunt and hurt every coach that coached for us during that time period.
It also, we couldn't get no
free agents still on a roster in 2023.
For one thing, because we had the money. Another thing, what free agent want to come here and play for this playing a lousy worst team in the league, the worst facilities, rat infested. What player won't come in and you're going to pay him $2 million to play here? No, I'll go over here and play $4 million and play here in a better situation. So
exactly.
That's the problem we had. We couldn't pay these guys. And who will want to come here? Well, come to Oakland at that time.
Yeah.
It's up top.
So a lot of these coaches never even got a fair shot, in my opinion. In that time period, they didn't get a fair shot.
Well, between not getting any time as the head coach and just not having the weapons allowed them to have,
Right.
So after Tom Cable, we've got Hugh Jackson, was here for 1 year. He's the one that brought in Carson Palmer. And that kind of was a disaster. Hugh went 8-8. The fans liked him. The players liked him. Al wanted to go a different direction, and that's when he brought in Dennis Allen.
But we
all know how that went.
But Hugh Jackson,
another disaster. He's right equal.
Well, no. What happened was
Al Davis died that year.
Yeah, Al died.
Right.
Mark wanted to bring him in
because he went against when he played
Houston,
and he won that game. He cried at the end of the game. They passed away that year.
And I'll be honest with you. In my heart of hearts, I think Hugh Jackson would have worked out if Al would have stayed. If Al wouldn't have passed away, I think Hugh would have worked out because he was learning from Al. It felt like Al trusted him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Al
hard when Al passed.
Yeah, that did. And I think Al trusted Hugh. He understood the Raider mystique. Remember, he grew up in LA. Hugh Jackson was from LA, so he understood what was going on with the Raider program. And one thing you got to say about Hugh was always innovative. Like if Jason Campbell wouldn't have went down that year, we were on our way to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Campbell wouldn't have broke his collarbone. We were on our way to the playoffs because we were playing well. We were playing well that year.
I mean, you can't knock that.
And I don't blame Hugh for wanting to go out and get Carson Palmer. What he gave up was a little steep, but look what Carson Palmer did when he left the Raiders. So he did have something left in the tank. I just don't think that Hugh was given enough time to do what he needed to do. You know what I mean? I think they were impatient with that.
You have to restructure the team because this play style was far beyond what the players he had, what he was trying to do. So he didn't get the right system.
Remember what happened. Remember what happened with Hugh. What happened with Hugh was after Al died, remember Hugh gave that press conference. We're going to do things different around here. I'm going to take more control of this team. Yeah. And he was saying a lot of stuff. that turned off a lot of the higher ups in the organization because he hadn't been around long enough to really get that kind of credibility. Right. And so he turned some people around like that because he was trying to take the bull by the horns a little bit too much.
Yeah, that was it for him. When he said that remark, like, I'm going to turn things around, that was pretty much it. Because remember, it wasn't Mark Davis, he's not still technically not the owner. His mother is. Yeah. But then, like I said, higher up, so they're like, wait a minute, who do you think you are going to tell us what we're going to do? So that was pretty much his downfall.
Yeah. But I didn't mind Hugh. I thought Hugh had some good ideas. I thought he was trying to bring us into the modern age of football. You know, we had seen some things. We had seen some things with
I'm sorry.
With Hugh.
Get the next guy, man. I'm sorry. This guy right here, the next guy. I'm sorry, Papa Run. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off.
No, I want to hear it now.
I just looked down the list like, get to this next guy. Woo!
Which one? Tony Sparano?
No, you know what I'm talking about. He's right after Hugh Jackson. You know who I'm talking about.
Dennis Allen? Come on, man. He was going to be the next greatest head coach for the Raiders.
Oh, my God. I thought the Raiders said, no, we're just going to choke for the next 3 years, huh? That's what we're going to do. We're just going to get number one draft pick each year he's a head coach. Pretty much
that was horrible. 2012 to 2014 was not good. Not good.
You said Dennis. You talking about Dennis Allen?
Yeah, my God.
He was like one of the most unqualified, uninspiring coaches that you could ever see. Like when you looked at that guy, you did not think about winning. You know what I mean? He was just not someone that you were like, okay, let's get behind this guy, and we can do something with this guy. That just wasn't there.
I'm gonna show you something. Share the screen. I'm gonna show you something right quick. Give me a minute.
It's not porn, is it?
Of course.
Hold on. It's gonna be a picture from your farming simulator.
Oh man. Yeah, it's porn. You know what else I'm gonna show? Give me that. I won't pull up. Anyway, I'm looking at the screen, right? And they had a list of all the Raider coaches. All of them. And they show their pictures. Get two pictures they don't show.
Dennis Allen, yeah.
Dennis Allen. They show every coach of the Raiders since, even from the 1960s, they got a picture of him. But when it comes to Dennis Allen, there's no picture of him. That's how bad he was.
Well, he was missing. He was actually missing in action as a coach anyway. So I you know.
They all try to erase him from history. Like, no, let's not put him up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dennis Allen came in as our 18th overall head coach, and that was, somebody said it in the chat. That was That was McKenzie's guy. That's who he wanted in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Hugh Jackson wasn't with us, because him and McKenzie just weren't going to get along, obviously, and that was the end of that for Hugh Jackson. Unfortunately, I liked Hugh. I really did.
I did too.
He was passionate about the team, and the way he reacted to Al Davis's passing said everything to me.
Yeah, you cried. Right.
That meant a lot.
That was touching. Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna skip over the Dennis Allen era because, again,
we've already covered it enough.
They already tried that on Wikipedia. They don't have his face. They're trying to erase from history.
So he basically didn't make the full 2014 season. So he was let go, and then Tony Sparano came in and covered the rest of the season. And Tony finished 3-9 to finish off the 2014 season. So
Mr. Barry the football. That's Barry the football. Tony Sparano.
Yeah. And then now we're in the Jack Del Rio era. So now we're at 2015 to 2017, Jack Del Rio, which we did see some success with him. His record overall was 25-23.
Right.
You know, so he was showing promise, but again, it's just another one of those.
That was
not giving somebody time, but then also the coach shooting himself in the foot too.
No, that was the time that Mark Davis, he was like those past 4 or 5 years trying to get John Gruden out the booth to come for the Raiders.
Yep.
And
that's when it happened. When he finally said, okay, when he gave him $100 million for 10 years, John Gruden said, I can't pass that up. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, that was the big reason why Del Rio was let go, because Mark wanted Gruden back.
Right.
You know, and which why 2018 we're back with Gruden for round 2. So
he
Gruden
started
was
feeling the pressure. Oh, you on Gruden?
No, go ahead.
Are we on Gruden now?
Del Rio. We haven't really transitioned in.
Oh no. I just had a little quick. I was going to say this about Del Rio. He was starting to feel the pressure, especially after that playoff year, right?
Yeah.
That year that we went 12-4. We kept winning all those games from behind, right? And so I was going to a lot of Raider games at that time. I was going up there watching a lot of Raider games, and I would always listen to the radio. I don't know if you guys know who Damon Bruce is, but he's like a radio guy, up in the Bay Area, right? And they used to always have like their daily shows on. So I'd be up there listening to the radio, and they would always have like a Monday afternoon segment with Del Rio after after a Sunday game or whatever. And I remember one time they were having an interview, and it was just so contentious. And Del Rio was so defensive about everything that this guy was asking him. And I remember telling my wife, this looks like it's going to be the beginning of the end for Del Rio. Like, I could tell that something was going on behind the scenes, you know what I mean, as opposed to the previous year where everyone was unified and and they played really good games. I don't know what happened in that locker room or what happened upstairs, but something shifted in that season. And that was the year we had Marshawn Lynch. That was the year that we got Marshawn Lynch. I remember that game. You guys remember that game where we started out 2-0 that year?
Yeah.
Forgot we started out 2-0. Remember the game where he was dancing on the sideline?
Yeah.
Remember? I was at that game. Me, Rundown, he was a shorty then, but me, Rundown, and my wife and kids, we were at that game. I remember that game. That was one of the funnest games I've ever been to. And Del Rio was still coaching. And that's when we started out 2-0 and we went to Washington on a Sunday night.
Oh,
and Washington had no business beating us. And everything was off in that game. Like because we weren't used to watching the Raiders play that way. They had started establishing a standard, right?
Yeah.
We were like, based off the previous year and the first two games of the year, we're like, okay, we're moving now.
You
know what I mean?
They were talking shit.
Yeah.
They were talking shit about, this because I remember we'll win that game. See, they were talking shit and watching them like that. They were like talking back like, y'all ain't gonna win this game. Got that game, Raiders got shellacked. 3 interceptions that game. I think it was 3 or 2 interceptions. One for a pick 6.
Yeah, that was a terrible game, and I heard a whole bunch of rumors about there was division in the locker room. There was a lot of stuff going on there, and I think Del Rio was kind of in the middle of that. You know what I mean? And so I think that was some of his downfall as well.
Wow.
But yeah, we can close the book on the Del Rio page.
That was the game, the Washington game. That's the one where I think there's something happened where Carr said something that the offensive line didn't like, or I don't know if it was borderline racist, maybe if I remember correctly. Or
it was something along those lines because the team was protesting something.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, the offensive line basically played Matadors for the day, and they just olayed the defensive linemen in, and they just
remember when everybody was up in arms about the anthem, about standing for the national anthem.
You're right.
Baby, everyone was up in arms about standing for the national anthem, and it split the locker room. And then when you come out and you hear some of the things that Del Rio has said since then, some of the things that he's been in trouble for, some of the things, some of his views or so-called whatever the case may be, you can tell why that situation tailspinned the way that it did. You can tell. You know what I mean? So that was unfortunate because I thought we were on to something with Del Rio, but we let politics get in the way. We let certain things get in the way of team unity, and it totally destroyed that team. Totally.
Well, now
I remember that even more now. Yeah, unfortunately, Derek Carr ended up on the wrong side of that because the offensive line was on the opposite side of that.
Exactly.
And he took a beating for it. And that was the end of his season. Like he lost. That was the first win of 4 in a row after that too, because they went on a downhill.
Oh yeah, it was bad after that.
It went spiraling down quick after that game.
Yep.
And they weren't. It just That just sucks.
We started reverting back to the old Raiders. We started looking like those Raiders again. You know? Yep.
So then at the end of that season, that's Del Rio's last year. And I think that's when Mark tried to take a stranglehold of the team again, in the fact of letting Del Rio go, letting McKenzie go, bringing in Mayock, bringing in Gruden, trying to reestablish the team and give them that spark of the old school Raiders. He figured still that Gruden could still do it and bring it back to what it was when Gruden was here the last time. It started off so. I mean, the draft picks weren't the best. Plus, at the same time, we had that transition from Oakland to Vegas. So there was that whole move.
But remember, we were starting to roll. We were like before all the bullshit happened with the emails. I'll give you another one. It was funny because the last game that Gruden coached was against the Bears. We got our ass. The Bears beat us in Vegas. I remember that because the previous game was against the Chargers, and I was at that game because it was out here at SoFi, and there was little rumors going around while they were playing the Chargers. Like it was already. Remember, the rumors were already kind of circulating about these emails and stuff. And they came out and played pretty well. They actually played pretty well against the Chargers. It was a hard-fought game. The Chargers ended up winning that game, but it was an ominous odor in the air after that.
But you gotta look at the thing though. You gotta look at what Gruden did because he said in this press conference, "Said, look, give me 4 years, I'll build a team to a playoff Super Bowl contending team." And you saw the progression. First year was second year started getting better. Then this last year, before he quit, he didn't get fired. He quit. They were a playoff team. They were actually going to play one game behind going to the playoffs. And Bisaccia took it to the next level because it still was built under Gruden. So he was doing this thing. He was doing this thing. He said 4 years.
He was.
That was 4 years. So you can see it.
Remember, we came out the gate. We came out the gate like 4-0. Remember that year? We beat Baltimore.
2021.
Remember? Yeah, 21. We beat Baltimore that year. Remember? That hell of a game that we had. We on that walk-off touchdown by Jones. 3-0. Yep, 3-0. We beat Baltimore. We beat Denver. Yep. And the Dolphins. Yep, you're right. So we beat all those teams, and we were looking good. I mean, we went to Pittsburgh and smacked them. But guess what?
We were at the bye week. We were 5-2 at the bye week.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? And this seems like it plagues us going all the way back to our 70s history. For some reason, it seems like things happen at the wrong fucking time when it comes to us sustaining success, right? Because guess what else happened in that year? The Henry Ruggs thing, right? The Henry Ruggs thing. Even though we still made the playoffs, and that was one of I'll tell you what. Damon Arnett. You know what, guys? I'll tell you something.
Yeah, Damon Arnett's right.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget. I told my wife after that 21 season, I said, man, I got to take a step back for it. I said, this shit, that year consumed me. There was so much emotion in that year when Henry Ruggs went down. Well, when Henry Ruggs did what he did, letting John Gruden go. That was one of the most emotional football seasons that I had ever been a part of. I was exhausted after that season. It was like my emotions was everywhere.
I was looking at like, okay, Ruggs, Gruden, what the fuck's next? We're gonna lose our NFL franchise.
Oh man,
no more Raiders because it was just like it kept going down, deep into the valley.
Here's what happened this season, the 2021 season. Ready? I got it all laid out right here. So the season overview, resignation of executives. So we had CBS Sports noted that several Raider team executives, including President Mark Baden,
Badane,
strategy and business development.
That's the guy who was stealing money.
Yep.
Mark Badane, yep.
Okay. So then you also had the resignation of John Gruden that season. Okay.
Yep.
Then you had the lawsuit that Gruden filed against the NFL and Commissioner Goodell, all in the same season. Carl Nassib comes out as the first openly gay active NFL
Yep.
player.
Yep.
Same season.
Yep.
Player controversies. Henry Ruggs kills a lady and her dog.
Yep.
Damon Arnett gets released because of his images on social media with the weapons. And another one that a lot of people still don't talk about, Nate Hobbs, arrested for DUI after their
Yep.
Week 17 win against the
That's right.
Colts.
Sure did.
So there was
Sure
him
did.
too involved that season.
Yeah.
So you're right. It was an emotional season. It was a lot of involvement with shit off the field more than anything.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
know, that just consumed, like you said, consumed the team and screwed everybody up. And on top of that, don't forget, it was only our second season in Vegas. So
In Vegas, yeah.
Fully
Yeah.
planted there in Vegas yet. We were only in our second season and all this shit happened. So not only are we
fellas.
still it was the first season after the COVID season. So attendance was still kind of iffy, you know. So you have that on top of it. People were still in that COVID scare, plus everything else going on. 2020 to 2021
It was tumultuous. Very tumultuous. No,
Yeah.
and you know what else? Do you guys remember for me that the end of that 21 season, it culminated with that game, that Sunday night game against the Chargers to get into the playoffs. I tell you right now, me and Rundown sat here and watched this game together. I'll never forget, right in this very spot I'm in right now. And it felt like by the time that game was over with, it felt like I had played. That's how much emotion went into that game. I don't know if other Raider fans can attest to that, but that was one of the most draining seasons. I mean, I woke up that morning. I never forget. I woke up that morning and I felt like I was going to put pads on that night. That's how dialed in we were to that game against the Chargers. You know, just because all of the shit that had happened that whole year, for us to still be in a position to make the playoffs when nobody gave us a chance. That was, like I said, it was just one of the most emotionally draining games and seasons.
I think the best part about next year. I'm sorry. I think the best part about that game against the Chargers is you could see that we were okay going to a tie, because if we tied the game, if it ended in a tie, we both would have made the playoffs. But you could see the Chargers going basically, screw you, we're not going to go for a tie. And then that's when Bisaccia and the Raiders said, you know what, screw them. Foot on the throat.
We're going to get this. Let's go get it, yeah.
And eliminated them. And that was
one of the great victories in Raider history.
One of the greatest feelings after that season.
Yes, it was.
After all that happened that year, that game made me feel good. Made me feel good, like for the next year. Like, okay, we overcome all these obstacles, all this bullshit, all this dumb things off the field, and maybe something on the field. I said, okay, hire Bisaccia, let's move on. Okay, we all right. We will be okay. We'll overcome this. But go to the next coach and tell us what happened then, Mr. Jeff. Who's the next coach?
Oh, and that's just it. You know, with Gruden leaving, it was Bisaccia that basically willed this team into the playoffs, pretty much.
Yeah, I said, okay,
finished the season 7. He finished the season off 7-5. Got us to the playoffs. Everybody thought for sure this guy was going to possibly be hired as the head coach. Yeah. That's most fans wanted it.
And that's what positive. That's the positive I looked for. When I looked at, okay, we're in the playoffs. We did lost to Cincinnati. We won't talk about that. Bisaccia, I say, okay, Bisaccia did good. Went 7-5, very good record. We get to the playoffs next year. Keep the team, build some more around it, replace the guys we lost, and move forward. That's what I feel good about. But then, like I said, what happened next?
That's when all hell broke loose, and a playoff team got dismantled when we hired Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
And I said it when we hired him. I wasn't on any YouTube stuff back then. I said it to my collective group in the Booster Club. I said, hiring him is a mistake. He's a horrible head coach. He's going to set us back 5 years. After the first few moves he made as the head coach, I knew we were in trouble. I knew we were screwed. I knew that here we are 3 years now from basically the same time that he would have been hired 3 years ago. Where are we? We've got another new head coach. We've got a whole new regime in here, new GM, new quarterback now again. You know, the team's in disarray. Well, it was in disarray. There's some structure there now, which we haven't had in years. Definitely didn't have it when McDaniels was here. McDaniels, by far, is the worst coach that I think we've ever had for us. I absolutely despised him, hated him from the get-go, and not just because he came from the Patriots. I just think he's a horrible head coach. Didn't work in Denver. Why the hell did Mark Davis give him another shot?
Well, you know what?
Mark Davis wanted to be part of that Patriot way.
I'll say this. I will say this though, fellas. I'll say this. They didn't do bad. They didn't do bad in the draft, right? I don't think they weren't terrible. They got us Jacoby Myers. They got us Trey Tucker. You know, they got us a few guys in the draft. You know what I mean? Like they didn't do horribly in the draft. I won't say that they did. Another thing that I will give him is that they ripped the Derek Carr Band-Aid off. They were the only coaching staff that said we're going to rip this Derek Carr Band-Aid off, which I thought we were overdue to do that anyway, right? Mm-hmm. We're overdue for that. So I will give him credit for trying to, like, I think his problem was he wasn't trustworthy. It's not that he didn't know football. It's not that he didn't understand football, because I think he really does, but I don't think he's a leader of men. He doesn't come across as someone, right? He doesn't come across as someone, first of all, that has learned his lessons from the past. That's one. He hasn't learned his lessons from the past, and he said he did. But he wasn't a leader of men in the locker room when you need to be. And you saw how fast they turned on him.
He couldn't relate to the players. He couldn't
not at all
to them or talk to them or anything. And instead of
you're not Bill Belichick.
Instead of like, you know, I take the blame for we lose the game when we lost to Chicago that year. You know what he said? He said, they wasn't ready. He threw his players under the bus.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared. You're the head coach. You're supposed to prepare them for each game. Oh, they weren't prepared.
If you go back on YouTube and search the press conference from that day when it was Ziegler and McDaniels at that press conference when they were being introduced as the head coach and GM, and I said it then too, that press conference looked so fake and so forced by them. They didn't even look like they belonged there. Like they were never Raiders, you know, when he's talking about the Raider way and all that. And to watch him at that press conference, I'm watching that day and I'm like, you're full of shit. You're not going to make this the Raider way. Nobody believes you when you say, you know, it's all about the silver and black. It's about the shield and all that. Dude, those are all forced lines. You just said that to appease certain people, and you're not pulling any wool over my eyes for sure.
He didn't
pull the wool over a lot of the fans' eyes either.
He knows that
was one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen.
The press conference.
It was so uncomfortable to watch.
You know who sat there in the middle, right? In between them. Mark Davis sat there.
Yeah.
He sat in the whole press conference. He didn't do the rest of the guys, but them two he did. He sat there the whole time.
Yep.
Because he was trying to bring those guys credibility that they didn't have.
And
now, I'll say this.
I get him wanting to get out of the Derek Carr thing, but you got to have a better replacement than Jimmy Garoppolo, who still didn't even pass the physical, and we knew he was going for surgery even after we signed him.
Yeah.
But before we signed him, we knew he was going to have to get surgery done. Why are you bringing in somebody that's got, you know, a bum injury? You know, I just
don't understand why we didn't, you know, like instead of a guy like Garoppolo that had an injury, why didn't you try to get Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
He was a former number one pick. Like I don't understand like why we were swinging it, but you know why? I'll tell you why. Because it was that New England Patriot way bullshit.
Well,
just like you said, Jeff.
And he knew Garoppolo could run it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that too.
You know,
Garoppolo would listen to him. Garoppolo would sit there and if McDummy say run this play, he's gonna run the exact same play. Because that one thing that Carroll there, what I'm saying was Carr's downfall was that Seattle game, the overtime game. That was his downfall because he checked out that play that McDummy wanted to run. Then again, Josh Jacobs ran for that touchdown. And you can see on McDummy's face on the sideline, like he wasn't celebrating. He was like,
he was pissed.
He was pissed.
Yeah. Yep.
He was pissed. Downfall.
Yeah. Yep. It sure was.
To in defense of Carr in a way, I liked Carr when he was here, but the team never did him any favors. They never did the fan base any favors because for however many years Carr was here, out of those 9 years, we never brought in true competition for him to force him to excel and be. So he knew that he could just stay mediocre at where he was, collect the paychecks, and get us respectable amount of wins. We never brought in somebody that could physically challenge him for his position. So there was that too. We never prepared for the future without.
And I'll say this though. I'll say this too, Jeff.
To this day.
I'll say this too, Jeff. I think the worst thing that happened to Derek Carr was John Gruden leaving. He was starting to mold. He was starting to mold Derek Carr into. He was starting to mold Derek Carr into his Rich Gannon, so to speak. Right? Like you could see that. You could see it coming. Like he had that trust. They were starting to trust each other, and it was manifested on the field. Right? It was actually manifested on the field. I mean, when you think about some of them plays that Derek Carr made when they beat Baltimore in Vegas, when they went to Pittsburgh and shot them down, they had a really good defense. I mean, he was playing well. Understanding the offense, moving the football, doing the things that John Gruden was talking about doing, and the rug got pulled from under everybody. And I think that was the beginning. To me, that was the beginning of Derek Carr's downfall. Not so much Josh McDaniels, but the stunting of his growth after Gruden left. You know what I mean? The stability that Derek Carr, because remember that year they were all starting to talk about stability. Stability. That was the big word. The 2021 years, the words were stability. We're finally starting to feel like a stable franchise.
Yeah, and I think Mark Davis would have allowed Gruden to stay, even if he was still kind of iffy in the win columns, because he knew that he understood that it was going to take time for Gruden to fully get everybody on the same page and get the team going the way he wanted to. It's just that his hand was forced. The NFL was going to come down on him. Gruden just did the right thing and resigned at that point. He had no choice.
Right.
It's not like we fired him. He had to go. There's no choice about it.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
he would have stayed and fought it while he was still the head coach, somebody would have stepped in and said, he needs to go. And then it looks negative for the team too. And then now as fans, we're going to defend that against other fans.
We wasn't getting nowhere that year.
It was going to make us look bad in the NFL eyes. Like, you still get this guy, although you know what he did. And I was like, the fans well, why we keep this coach when he made these negative remarks about some people? So,
2023 season comes. We got almost halfway through the season. They decide, you know what, Josh McDaniels, you're an actual piece of shit. It's time for you to go. We get rid of him. We get rid of Ziegler. And we bring Ziegler still stayed until we brought Antonio Pearson as the interim head coach for the rest of the season. The team responded to him. The team played well.
Ziegler was gone too. He was gone the next day because
Ziegler was gone too.
The intern.
Ziegler was one. So that's right, because Chip Kelly.
At the same time.
Not Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly. So Antonio Pierce takes over the rest of the season for 2023. Turns the team around a little bit. The team responds to him. He makes the statement, I'm going with my guy, puts AOC 12 in as the starter, benches Garoppolo. Garoppolo's a thing of the past now at that point. O'Connell played good down the stretch, I thought, enough to warrant being the starter going into the 2024 season, depending on who the coach was. They hire Antonio Pierce, much to do with the team, the players push him for it. Yeah. Mark Davis, not collapsed, but he I guess he collapsed to it or whatever. He accepted it and hires him as the head coach. The season gets off to a rocky start. We bring in Getsy as the offensive coordinator. Minshew comes in. He's horrible. And now we're back in that same funk of, God, we suck. Everybody felt good going into the start of the season. I know I did. I don't know how you two felt about it. I never.
I was ecstatic. I was overjoyed.
Listen.
I figured we were going to be around the 6 to 7 win season. Did I think we are going to make the playoffs? Hell no. But I thought we were going to stop making progress.
Yeah.
Actually, I was over the moon. I felt like, yeah, we were heading in the right direction. I thought we were building a culture. And I'm gonna tell you the series of events that doomed Antonio Pierce was, first of all, the front office didn't do him any favors. That's number one.
Yep.
Right. And I'm gonna put that out there. The front office did not do him any favors because you had a chance. You had a chance to get Cliff Kingsbury, and you lowballed him.
Mm-hmm.
You lowballed Cliff Kingsbury, right? So we already starting off behind the 8 ball with you lowballing Cliff Kingsbury. Now they put you in a scramble position for an offensive coordinator, right? And so then you finally settle on Getsy based off a game that he played against us last year. Don't forget when Josh McDaniels was coaching us, right? So you bring Getsy in, and the biggest mistake that we made with Getsy was letting him decide who was going to be the starting quarterback. That's where Antonio Pierce screwed himself.
He screwed himself because
he should have stayed loyal to AOC, and I think that's where he fell out with Devontae Adams as well. He should have stayed loyal to AOC, and he did not. AOC should have been a de facto starter coming into the season.
He did not have control over the team because you can tell he didn't have control. Because even the press conference, Michigan's going to start. He wasn't too thrilled by even saying that. You can see it in his face. He didn't have control. They probably told him, "Hey, wasn't that Teletico say, well, we paying this guy this much money. He's going to start with AOC." No, I want AOC. No, but he's going to start. I don't think he had full control of the team. Antonio Pierce was almost a figurehead just to satisfy the fan. Because one thing about Kingsbury,
give me 1 second. I got a super chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. But one thing about Kingsbury, you know what else they try to get? They wanted him to come in? Chip Kelly.
Who?
Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly didn't want to answer the phone. He said, no, I answered the goddamn phone. He didn't want to come to this team because he saw this team is disorganized. I'm not coming there to ruin my chance of becoming the next head coach of some other team.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So I got a super chat from Nav, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. $5 super chat. Says top 3 best YouTube names. He says mine is number 1, Dixon Carter. Number 2 is I'm Not Bueno. And 3 is Slammin' Sam MH Joe. What do you think? Dixon Carter's awesome. I love that name. I've seen him on so many different shows in the past, and I've heard people say, I'm not saying his name. It's not that bad. Thanks, Dad, man. I appreciate it. So now with Antonio Pierce, I think personally, this was one of the worst seasons that I've seen as a Raider fan, other than possibly the Art Shell's second go around with us. And I say that because there was so much hope going into this season, and I thought we were gonna right the ship a little bit more going in, with this past season that just finished. But there was just so much going on with this season also, but not as much as the Gruden 2021 year with, everything going on with the DUI charges, the guns, and all that other crap. It was just so much between the firing of OC, the quarterback changes, Devontae Adams wanting out. It was all in
the injuries.
Stuff.
Then we dealt with Christian Wilkins played 4 games. 4 or 5 games, and he was our big free agent splash that we hadn't had in such a long time, and it was a lot going on in that season. Yeah, it was, but the biggest thing was that I think that the guys in that locker room, they resented the fact that they didn't try to nurture AOC. AOC had done enough the previous year to warrant him coming in saying, okay, Gardner, you're backing him up. And they should have they didn't put their arms around AOC the way they should have. And I think that hurt his confidence, because if you watch, I kept hearing all throughout the preseason, this offense looks terrible. This offense looks terrible. Both quarterbacks look terrible. But at that point, we already knew what Gardner Minshew was. Yep. We knew that, and we kind of already expected that from Gardner Minshew. But everyone was excited. Remember, AOC beat Kansas City, Denver, and the Chargers last year. You know what I'm saying? And so he should have had that opportunity to come in and say, this is our guy. Gardner, you're backing him up like you do with every other guy, like you've done every other quarterback on every other team that you've been on, right? You're gonna back him up. If we need you, come out of the bullpen. You know we got you. But you should have went into the beginning of the season with AOC as an unquestioned starter, and he should have because we never gave him the confidence that he needed.
And that shattered the confidence of the whole team because
the whole team and Devontae.
Most of the team was saying they want AOC to start.
Tanner Jack, so you know, and Chris can verify this. I've been on AOC 12 side the entire season. Even now, I still would rather see him. I like the AOC 12. I thought he was a good player for us, but a lot of people just give me shit about it.
I thought he was a de facto starter.
I'll tell you.
Because
season one, because do you figure like he won them games towards the end of the season? Got you know he did good. Okay, so you bring Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew's been a backup fucking quarterback his whole damn career. He started for one team one time, but he's been a de facto fucking start. Why?
I think the GM.
Why? Okay, Antonio Pierce. You gonna tell me you gonna bench your quarterback who basically damn near threw his way to get you this damn job? That don't make sense to me. So
I don't think it was AP's call.
It's something else. It's something up over his head that made him pick Gardner Minshew. It's sometimes let's go whoever. It was something over his head that he did not want Minshew to start.
He didn't want to do that.
He was forcing hands. Because look at the press conference. You can tell. But then when Minshew got hurt and then had press conference who's next starting quarterback, what did he say? We got our guy. He said he got AOC back to start quarterback.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? You mean to tell me, right, that remember how they had this big old conspiracy theory that they were saying that just because AOC threw that pick six in a meaningless preseason game, that's what decided the quarterback competition? Remember that? And everybody, and I'm saying to myself, are you serious? Are you serious? Like, that call was over AP's head. I really feel like that call, like that came from the general manager.
Yep.
That came from the general manager. I don't care what anybody says. I know that came because that's not even AP's get down. That's not. He's a loyal guy. He talked AOC up all the previous year when he stepped in, right? And so when we brought in that other GM from the Chargers, thank you for drafting Brock Bowers, by the way. But when we brought that other GM in from the Chargers, that was his call because Minshew was his signing, right? And they screwed up by.
He can't look bad. He cannot look bad for bringing somebody in and then they don't play. Yeah. Like what kind of GM?
Well, especially the money you're paying him too. You know.
But no one would have gave a shit. No one would have gave a shit because we already know Gardner Minshew's a backup anyway.
Yeah.
No one was expecting Gardner Minshew to come in and play like Drew Brees or some shit. We weren't thinking that, right? So we already knew that Gardner Minshew is a backup stopgap quarterback. You got a kid here that showed you that he understood. Look, AOC had to come and play. He had to come into the learning curve, right? He kind of got forced into that shit. And the way he responded after that, remember that first Charger game when he looked like absolute dog shit?
He was set up for that. He was set up.
He came back every game. Like once he got over that game, when he came back to play again, you saw the incremental improvement in his play.
But you know what? That game was a shit show, but he did bring the team back. We could have won that game. Okay, closer time. So it wasn't like it was a shit show, but we were close enough to win. He brought the team back.
And that was on McDaniels because he was calling stupid ass plays at the end of that game. Instead of running the football, we had Josh Jacobs. I remember that game. We had the 3-yard line. He's still trying to pass the ball. He's passing the ball to the sideline on a goal line situation out of the shotgun. With a rookie quarterback in his first start ever. And you got Josh Jacobs back there. And we pounded the football.
Against a great defense. Yeah. Nice.
See, but see, that's why Josh McDaniels is an ego coach. I'm going to do this because this is my system. I'm going to win the game because of the play I call, not because of the players on the field. It's because of the plays that I call. It's because I did this and I did that, and that was him. That was his coaching style in a microcosm. That was him, right? And you could tell that shit started rubbing off on the players. Devontae Adams couldn't stand him. You know what I mean? It was a lot going on there, and it was all because of Josh McDaniels' ego, right?
Yeah, this same in Denver. Did the same push in Denver. He
Yeah,
came in do the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yep.
but see, go back to Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce to me, after I look at the season and what happened, as I go back to that, he was more like just all right, Raider fans, shut the fuck up. We'll hire Antonio Pierce. But he's not going to run the team. He's going to be a figurehead, okay? So he gets, because Mark Davis was losing his fan base behind the Josh McDaniels shit. So Antonio Pierce come in there like, yeah, okay, yeah, you guys like him, we'll keep him. But he didn't run the team. He did not run the team as head coach.
And that was their fault.
One thing I noticed that the players called AP. You don't call your coach of the team AP. You call him coach.
No, it's coach.
AP.
Yeah.
AP. So he had, the players probably expect him as a man, as a leader, man. They probably expect that. But as the coach, the respect started to fade away because they didn't get that power.
Yeah, and when you usurp power from someone that needs to leave the locker room, you're going to get dissension.
Yeah.
Right, and that's exactly what happened. Dissension started creeping in, but I blame that on the front office. I have to put that at the footsteps of Mark Davis for allowing this GM to come over here from the Chargers and tell the head coach who he's going to play at quarterback, and also hiring Luke Getsy, who, as you can see, didn't have a clue about what the hell he was doing when it came to it. And if Getsy was the one that tried to push Minshew towards starting, shame on him as well.
Yeah.
Because I wanted AP to say, you know what? No, this is AOC's job until he loses it.
He loses it, exactly.
You don't decide no bullshit like that after this kid led you to an 8-9 season after it fell off the rails when McDaniels got fired. This kid led you to an 8-9 season, damn near getting to the playoffs, and then you come in the next year and don't give him the shot.
AOC basically got you the damn job.
That's what I'm saying. You don't even give him the shot. I remember when they announced it, because everyone was kind of on pins and needles through training camp and preseason, because we're all saying like, okay, who they're going to pick. And I'll never forget when I finally heard it was going to be Gardner Minshew, and I was doing something, and my wife was like, "Why are you looking like that?" I said, "God damn it, they just said Gardner Minshew was a starter." You know what I mean? And then I was like, and it just kind of put me in a pissy mood for a minute. Like, dude, are we really doing this? And I said to myself, typical head scratching Raider shit. Yep. What are we doing?
Yep.
So that was my take on that.
So now that brings us pretty much to, the end of Antonio Pierce here this past season. So,
okay, before you go into the next one, sorry, this is real quick, because I remember me and Jeff first started doing lives. That's when we got started doing lives together. We sat there talking about Antonio Pierce, and we said he had a press conference that same day.
That's right.
He had a press conference that same day, and we were talking about it. I said, when they gonna hire him? I said, don't tell what's going on in the room. And so we kind of like, they're gonna hire him. Then we found out the next day he fired his ass. That was our first live doing together. And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, we had that disappointing. Well, you had that encouraging press conference from him where it seemed like everything is A-okay. And he leaves the press conference at the end by saying, now I got to go meet with Mark and Tom Telesco and discuss the future for the Raiders going into the 2025 season. And then 48 hours later, the guy's fired.
Here we go. Yeah.
Okay. Why'd you let this poor bastard go out there and say what he said on Monday, and then on Wednesday you fire him, and then 24 hours later you fire Telesco too? It's like, why didn't you just come out Monday, the day after the game, and say everybody's fired?
And just go ahead, fire everybody if that's what it is.
And I thought you did him dirty. I said, why you do him like that? Why didn't you put him up there? Right after again, like you did with Mayo in New England. Why did you just fire him right after the game? I think that might have been, I think that might have been the start of the Tom Brady effect. I think that might have been the start of the Tom Brady effect as well. Probably.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, because at that point he was fully immersed as part owner of the team. So now Antonio Pierce is gone, the GM's gone. Pretty much everybody gets wiped out now for the most part. They still kept a couple of coaches that I liked. I'm glad they did. And now I'll
be back in a minute, fellas. I'll be right back.
Yeah, and then we have the search now for the new coach. So right now, Pete Carroll is the new head coach. This is the last coach on the list of all the coaches we've gone through. We've gone through all of them for the most part, and we've all had comments on everything. So Pete Carroll's the most recent one. Right now, Pete Carroll is a complete open book. We don't know what we've got coming forward other than what's happened so far. So we don't know really what to expect going into the 2025 season. The only thing we can assertively say is we've got a new quarterback right now. We've got an additional running back to the team. We've re-signed some of the players that we needed to re-sign that are going to help for the future. We let go some or didn't retain or re-sign some that we thought were, going to cost us more than what we wanted to. They weren't like superstars. It's not like, letting Tom Brady go in his heyday or, Randy Moss go when he was only 4 years into the season, into the league and was a superstar. We're talking about guys that were not really in their prime for the most part. Like Splain, he's 31. This was his last big payday, basically. New England offered it. He took it.
But you gotta look at what Pete Carroll's doing, which I'm like, that's why I'm not like a bandwagon like I was a Tim Pierce. I thought we was going the right direction. This year I had more confidence, but I'm not excited. You guess what Pete Carroll's doing? He's building his team in his eyes. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna sit there and overpay players that really doesn't fit his style of play. You know what I'm saying? So he's doing things like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. This is how I build successful teams in USC and in Seattle. This is what I did. This is steps I took. So he's making the right steps. Because I believe that if they didn't hire Pete Carroll, Patrick Graham was gone. Patrick Graham was out of here. He's about ready to pack his bags.
I'm glad they brought him back. Thank God.
Pete Carroll say, hey, your system basically almost like mine, but we're going to change those things up. I want you here to make these defensive calls. Because when Pete Carroll really didn't make any offensive calls or the defensive calls. He depends on his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. So he's making the steps in the right direction. They got a GM who wasn't really a GM assistant, but he saw everything was ran. So it isn't like it's his first time doing it.
Yeah.
So they're getting the pieces in place. If we're gonna be successful next year, if we win 7 games, I'm not satisfied. I'm happy that at least we're winning more games. Or are we gonna win 11 or 12 games? We don't know. But at least the team will look different.
So right now, again, like I said, Pete Carroll, it's still an open book. I mean, we've got an idea of what he can do. We've seen it in Seattle. At this point, as long as we're doing this show, we'll talk about it as the season starts or during the summer when we're doing our shows.
Oh man.
Because as things come up, we'll obviously discuss Pete Carroll because that's going to still be the hot topic, for us as far as, finishing this. Basically, this coaching list that we just went through is a work in progress still, because there's unfinished business with this discussion because Pete Carroll's still new to the team. So just make sure you guys check in with us. Every Saturday night we come on at 9:00 Eastern time. 6:00 Pacific. Make sure you get over to Chris Flores, hit the subscribe, hit the notification, hit the thumbs up. Do the same for mine. Brett, are you getting a channel? Is Run setting you up with one at some point?
Yeah. He said I should have one in the next couple of weeks. I'll be on.
Okay. So once PapaRundown has his set up, we'll make sure that we get that promoted for you guys too, to go in there and hit the sub notifications and likes. Because this is the normal panel on a Saturday night is going to be the 3 of us. And again, it's talking Raider history.
Yes, it is.
So, I mean, this is something I'm passionate about. And I know these 2 gentlemen are too also, being old school Raider fans,
Without a doubt.
So we're doing this to help educate the youngsters. And there's some old fellas that are in the chat that I see. So I see them commenting. And I appreciate everybody that's been commenting and interacting with us. I try to get to your chats as much as possible. I appreciate the memberships that were bought early on in the night by Raider Ryan. The super chat from Navman, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Next step now is we gotta work on getting Chris up to that portion to get him to the 500 subscribers. So make sure everybody please get over to Chris's channel, hit those subscribes, the notifications, because Chris does tend to go on live during the week, during the day too. You got anything going on, Chris? Coming up?
I'm thinking I'm gonna do a live with Jason tomorrow morning. Just gonna talk about things, and then like on Wednesdays I'm gonna do another
Greater
one.
Nation, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason J-A-S-I-N.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday I'm gonna do another one of those. You pick it mock draft where the fans pick instead of me. And I like that because I want to see the pulse of the nation. Who do you guys like? And I like to see it because, like I said, doing the mock drafts, it's always the person doing the mock draft who makes the picks. I want the fans to pick the picks. Who do you guys want to take? You want to take Gente at number 6? Go ahead. This is your choice. But I want to see what you guys think. I do that Wednesday, like between 10 and 12. I don't know the exact time yet, but I'm doing it again.
You guys, and you guys can catch Rundown Show. I'm gonna be on one of his shows in the next couple of days too. Sweet. So y'all can peep me out over there too.
Yeah, hit the Raider Rundown. If anybody's not subscribed to Raider Rundown, make sure you get over to his channel.
You say you get the channel, Papa Rundown?
Yeah. My son Rundown set me up with one.
Oh, awesome! Let me know because I will be subscribing to that immediately.
No doubt, man. I appreciate y'all for having me on. Let me be a part of this, man. Like you said, it's a wonderful thing to talk Raider history. You know what I mean? It's a very rich history, like we talked about before. It's it's a unique culture, as you can see.
It's his dad.
Yeah. So we're happy to share all this Raider information with you and all of this passion. So you guys keep subscribing and checking us out, man. Appreciate all of y'all.
Yeah, definitely. Next week, I think. So we've covered Al Davis. Today we did head coaches.
Quarterbacks.
We'll talk amongst the three of us.
Let's get into We'll have a little. I'm gonna shoot you some ideas, Jeff. I got a few ideas. I'm gonna shoot you when we, a little bit later on during the week. But we're gonna have some fun stuff. You know what I mean? Some stuff where you guys can kind of hit us up and interact with us. Some good debate stuff, opinionated stuff.
Do me a favor, Jeff. I know he don't have IG, but Jeff, do me a favor, give him my phone number and stuff, and Papa Run, text me this so I'll put you on my phone so I can talk to you personally too.
No doubt, for sure. Yep. We'll make that connection, dog.
I got another super chat here from Nav, man. Food for thought. He says, if Geno did what he did in Seattle with 28th ranked O-line in 2024, we got no worries at QB. Game changer. Let's go full on Trent. And I believe that.
Yeah, I believe that too.
If he did what he did in Seattle last year, I'm confident. And which is, again, why having Pete Carroll as a head coach helps. Players going to want to come here and play for him.
Well, just know this. If it's Gente or not, the running game is going to be on point, right? Yeah. We know the running game is going to be on point. I think our offensive line is sneaky good. I think we got some pieces on that O-line. I don't know if you guys heard, but yesterday I heard Max Crosby doing an interview, and he was talking about how JPJ has been with him every day. He said Jackson Powers Johnson's been with me every single day, right? So there you already have your leader, your young leader of your offensive line is already starting to emerge, right?
He's learning from a leader how to lead a team. That's what he's doing. That's why he's with Matt Crosby. You learn because Matt Crosby is the leader of the defense, so he's following the leader. He's talking to him, getting in his head. Because you remember when they put JPJ at center, the running game improved. But as soon as he took him off, he got bad again. So
I look for Pete Carroll to have a Jim Harbaugh effect, similar to the effect of what Jim Harbaugh had on the Chargers. I really do. Especially with us getting a quarterback that he's familiar with. Right? So this is not something where they got to start from scratch and they got to learn each other. So there's a certain portion of hit the ground running that I'm looking forward to when it comes to how this team is going to be ran, how the team is going to be quarterbacked, and certain things like that. Philosophy, you know what I mean? So there is cause for optimism we still need to have a good draft, but I think there's cause for optimism this year. I don't think that even last year, I don't think that we were as bad as our record showed. Remember, we lost a lot of games that we were actually in and could have won, but we just didn't have. If we'd had decent quarterback play, we would have been a lot better.
7 or 8 of those games we were leading at halftime.
Yeah. And the instability of quarterback was the undoing of a lot of games last year for us. Just the inconsistency, the lack of a running game, but just the costly mistakes by quarterbacks at the wrong time, not being able to finish drives. Like we got to a point in the season where we were like, okay, well, what time is it? Gardner Minshew's getting ready to make a mistake. That's what it started feeling like. You're like, okay, but when is it gonna come? You know what I mean? Like the shit he pulled in Denver. You know what I mean? Like the stupid intercept, the one he pulled in SoFi. We're winning those games. We're winning those games. We're actually winning those games. You know what I mean? So
we had Denver up 10-0.
Exactly.
We got a touchdown in 17-0 in the first half. What did God mention? Throw it up for grabs.
Momentum is very fickle in the NFL. One play causes an avalanche in the NFL, especially if you have a quarterback that if you don't have the right type of quarterback, one play can cause an avalanche. And we saw that last year. That's why I said that's why I'm so happy that Pete understood this early. Go out and get us a stable quarterback. Go out and get us somebody that knows how to play in the NFL and win games.
And you know what kills me? People talk about, well, he had 15 interceptions last year. Dude, he was trying to force balls in. Because he had no time. He had the offensive line.
Their offensive line was terrible. Their offensive line was terrible.
He threw for 4,000 yards. And he played
But not only that, Chris,
he played the whole
they
season.
won 10 games. They won 10 games.
He played the whole
season. They won
interceptions. Then she only played half the season and got 9. Can you imagine playing the whole season?
They won 10 games last year.
Yes.
They barely missed going to the playoffs. They beat. Remember, people don't want to look. Remember how well the Rams played against the Eagles in that playoff games? Well, remember the last regular season game, Seattle went to LA and beat them.
Yeah.
And playoff seeding and stuff was on the line. Seattle was trying to get in at that point.
Yep.
Right? So you got to remember, down the stretch, they beat the 49ers and the Rams with Geno playing well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can go look those games up. So we have something there. We know we have a capable quarterback that's capable of winning games and not losing them for you.
Now starting a
especially if you put a good running, especially if you put a good running game behind that. You know what I mean? Which I think which I know we're going to do.
That's another thing. He didn't have a good running game too that last year because
they were terrible. Their offensive line was terrible.
And they were hurt, so he didn't have a running game either. So, Pete Carroll knows what we need because we need a running game and an offensive line.
And don't worry about that defense.
We got Brock Bowers, we got Jacoby Myers. We got those pieces there already. We can build off of that.
Everybody in the chat, don't even worry about the defense. That's going to trust me. That defense is going to be solid. That defense is going to be solid
at all. Absolutely not.
No.
So before we get out of here, only thing I got going on tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock Eastern time, AM, 7 o'clock Pacific, myself and LV Raider 10 have been challenged to play Tecmo Bowl against Afakasi.
Oh, wow.
So, I know
as long as you pick the Raiders, the Raiders, you winning. Pick the Raiders, you winning.
Jackson,
that's it.
I'll be reliving my childhood playing that.
You should be good. There's only 2 buttons you got to push, like A and B, so you should be all right.
Well, yeah, it's directional arrows and A and B. So I'll just be sitting here like this.
That's it. That's it. Hey, man, it's been great. It's been great with y'all, man. It's been great with y'all. I got to get out of here. My wife's waiting on me, but it's been great with y'all, man. Appreciate it. We're gonna do it again next week. Get my number from Jeff, Chris. Get my number from Jeff, and we'll get it in, man.
Awesome. Then we'll do that.
Definitely. All right, everybody. Thank you for chiming in tonight in the chat. Thank you for the super chats. Appreciate it. Thank you for the purchase of memberships. Everybody, have a good night. We'll see you all next week on the Raider Last Call.
Peace.